On our wedding day, my husband eloped with my sister. They had a car accident on the way, my sister died instantly, and he lost his eyesight as a result. Despite my family's objections, I insisted on marrying him and officially registered our marriage. Under my careful care, he eventually regained his vision. I thought life was finally looking up, but the first thing he did after regaining his sight was to cut open my belly, rip out my 6-month-old fetus, and stomp it to pieces on the ground. He snarled, "You think you're worthy of carrying my child? Go to hell and pay with your life for her." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he proposed to me. "Marry me, Gigi." The cool night breeze brushed against my face, jolting me out of my memories. Lu Haji knelt on one knee before me, holding a soda can ring as he proposed. Seeing the exact same scene as in my previous life, I finally knew for sure, I had been reborn. The agony of being gutted and dismembered by Lu Haji in my past life still haunts me. The sheer hatred in his eyes when he looked at me remains vivid in my memory. Now, no longer blinded by the giddy euphoria of that previous life, I can finally see his true intentions. Though he called out my name and proposed to me, there wasn't a trace of tenderness in his eyes. Instead, he glared defiantly past me. I turned around and, sure enough, saw Sushirue standing at the entrance, anxiously watching us. She saw me turn around and hastily retreated into the house. I stared coldly at Lu Haji before slowly shifting my gaze to the pull-tab ring in his hand. He didn't care whether I saw through his intentions. As Sushirue's figure disappeared, a flash of irritation crossed his eyes before he stood up with visible impatience. "Suji, you were begging me to marry you before. What's with this act now? Will you marry me or not?" Everyone knew I was hopelessly in love with Lu Haji. Chasing after him for 8 whole years without ever being driven away by his harsh words. In my past life, he proposed to me with a soda can ring, and I was so overwhelmed with emotion that I tearfully said yes right away. I truly believed my sincerity had won him over, only to realize it was all an act put on for Sushirue, just to make her jealous. I raised my hand, and he let out a mocking laugh as he was about to slip the ring onto my finger. I slapped the ring pull from his hand and struck him hard across the face, sending him stumbling sideways. When he finally processed what happened, he immediately roared in furious frustration. "Have you lost your mind, Suji?" I sneered. "Who's crazier than you, proposing with this junk? Are you broke or just trying to insult me?" Lu Haji had never been scolded like this by me before, and his face immediately turned livid with rage. Sushirue rushed over from behind, her face full of concern as she gently touched Lu Haji's cheek, then shot me a reproachful glare. "Sis, you've gone too far. Brother Lu proposed to you with all his heart, yet you're trampling all over him like this. Is his sincerity really less important than a ring?" When Lu Haji saw Sushirue, his eyes instantly filled with tenderness. I suddenly realized I'd been blind for 8 years, completely missing what was right in front of me. Sushirue is my second uncle's daughter. Because of his gambling addiction, my aunt abandoned their daughter and ran off with another man. Later, my uncle was driven to despair by debt collectors and ended up jumping off a building. My father has always carried guilt for refusing to help my uncle back then. After my uncle's death, he took Sushirue in and raised her as his own. In my previous life, after I accepted Lu Haji's proposal, I couldn't wait to share the news with her, completely missing the strange look on her face. In the end, she smiled and said to me, "Congratulations, sister, you got what you wished for." After that, he even actively accompanied me to try on wedding dresses and helped with the wedding preparations. But just as I was happily entertaining guests at the wedding venue, I received a call from the traffic police saying that Lu Haji and Sushirue had been in a car accident on the highway. Seeing the two of them like this made me sick to my stomach. I sneered and said, "You seem so concerned about him. Why don't you just ask him to give you his heart?" Sushirue immediately let go of Lu Haji in embarrassment and walked over, trying to hold me back. "I only got so worked up because I'm worried about you. Sis, you've had feelings for brother Lu for years. I really want to see you two together." Lu Haji's face fell noticeably upon hearing this. Then he furrowed his brows and looked at me. "Suji, it's just a ring. When did you become so materialistic?" I dodged Sushirue's hand. "Sorry. I guess I'm just vain. If it comes to it, why don't you two just get together instead?" Sushirue's expression was on the verge of tears. "Sis, please don't misunderstand me. I genuinely have your best interests at heart. Suji, if you're angry, take it out on me. Why are you being so passive-aggressive with Shirue? Apologize to her right now." I rolled my eyes, couldn't be bothered with these two any longer. and turned to walk back into the house, in my past life. They ruined my entire existence. Thankfully, getting a second chance allowed me to shed my rose-colored glasses and see things clearly. This time, I'll let this trashy couple have each other. May they stay together forever. The next day, Sushiro knocked on my door, her eyes red and swollen as if she'd been crying all night. Noticing my impatience, she took my hand and whispered, "Sis, you've really misunderstood me about yesterday. There's absolutely nothing between me and Brother Lou. You're my sister. How could I ever steal the person you like?" I kept a straight face as I watched her. If I hadn't known for a fact that in my past life she ran off with Lou Haji on my wedding day, making me the laughingstock of everyone, I might have fallen for her act again. Seeing that I stayed silent, she went on, "Brother Lou has a match today. Why don't you come cheer him on with me? He likes you so much. He'll be thrilled to see you there." A flicker of doubt crossed my mind. She clearly has feelings for Lou Haji and knows how he feels about her, so why is she pretending to support us? Does she really hate me that much? Is all this just to humiliate me on my wedding day? Curious about what she's up to, I simply replied with a flat alright. She visibly relaxed when I agreed, looking every bit the devoted little sister who only had her siblings' best interests at heart. I watched her coldly, determined to figure out what game she was really playing. When I followed Sushiro onto the basketball court, Lou Haji's teammates started teasingly shouting, "The missus is here." Spotting me, Lou Haji flashed a smug grin before quickly suppressing it and deliberately turning away with a cold expression. Right after graduation, Lou Haji landed a job at a basketball club. The club had barely any following and was on the verge of folding, kept afloat only by my lovesick self pouring money into it. To protect Lou Haji's pride, I specifically asked the manager not to reveal that I was the one funding it. Only now did I realize all his teammates knew he had feelings for Sushiro. They were clearly looking at her when they called her sister-in-law. Their gazes turned mocking and disdainful when they landed on me. In their eyes, I was probably just a desperate, clingy simp. Seeing me take a seat directly in the audience, Lou Haji walked over with a displeased expression. "Suji, where's the water? Everyone's thirsty. What's that got to do with me? I'm not your manager." Sushiro is the actual basketball team manager, so these pre-game preparations are her responsibility to begin with. It's just that I used to come watch every game, and I'd even carry their sports drinks box by box to the prep room myself. All because Sushiro told me it would help me win over Lou Haji and the rest of the team. Over time, he started seeing it as something I was supposed to do. Lou Haji never expected I'd embarrass him in front of everyone. He scowled angrily. "When did you become so ungrateful?" Seeing us about to argue again, Sushiro quickly stepped in to mediate. "My apologies, Brother Lou, it was my oversight. Please don't blame her. I'll call someone to deliver it right away. Why can't you be more like Shirue? Stop throwing these entitled tantrums over nothing." With that, Lou Haji's expression turned cold as he pulled Sushiro back to the preparation room. I sat in the audience, propping my head up as I watched Lou Haji make trip after trip to carry water for Sushiro. Back then, he never once stooped to help me, even though I was his girlfriend in name. At the time, he said, "Suji, don't be so delicate. I need to save my hands for the competition. How could I waste them on something trivial like carrying water?" I shook my head with a bitter smile. See how obvious love and indifference are. I was just blinded by my love-struck mind, failing to see it all along. Watching Lou Haji's unrestrained energy on the court, my eyes grew misty. Suddenly, I remembered the first time I saw him in high school. As I passed by the court, a basketball rolled to my feet, followed by a bright, cheerful male voice. "Hey, sorry to bother you, could you grab the ball for me?" I looked up and saw him leaning over the railing, smiling at me, his eyes filled with the blazing, dazzling light of summer. That one glance was all it took. Every time I passed the basketball court after that, I couldn't help but search for him, and yet, he was the one who confessed first, saying he'd love me for a lifetime. I never noticed when things started to change, clinging foolishly to past affections while refusing to see the truth. In my past life, I spent 8 entangled years with Lou Haji before finally receiving his marriage proposal. My parents never approved since he had neither car nor property, but they eventually relented to my insistence and consented to the marriage. Yet on our wedding day, he eloped with my sister, turning my entire family into a laughingstock. Lou Haji's car collided with a truck on the highway and flipped over. Sushiro was crushed to death on the spot, while Lou Haji remained unconscious for half a month due to the severe impact and woke up blind from a brain hemorrhage. I had resolved to cut all ties with him from then on. but when I heard from others that he had woken up, I couldn't help but go to the hospital to see him. Back when he lost his sight, there was no one to care for him, he couldn't even pour himself a glass of water. I stood outside the door for a long time. And in the end, my heart softened, for the sake of our past. I thought I'd pour him a glass of water and then leave, but Lu Haji guessed it was me. He took my hand, tears in his eyes, and said cautiously, "Gigi, can you forgive me? You're all I have left, please don't abandon me." With just those words, I let go of everything. After he was discharged from the hospital, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and got married. My father was so upset with me that he had a heart attack. And my mother was so disappointed in me that she didn't want to deal with me anymore. She took my father back to their hometown to recuperate. I brought Lu Haji home with me. Since he didn't want anyone else touching him, I took care of all his daily needs myself. His blindness made him sensitive and fragile. He would fly into a rage over the smallest things, sometimes even grabbing my hair and slamming me against the wall. Afterwards, he would always apologize in tears, holding me tight and repeating, "I'm just so afraid of losing you. Please don't leave me." I told myself he was just unwell, not intentionally hurting me. He was just afraid I'd leave him. Later I said to him, "Let's have a child, that way you won't have to worry about me leaving you anymore." He thought for a long moment, then softly agreed. After I became pregnant, his temper did indeed mellow considerably. Sometimes I'd take his hand to feel the baby kick together, and he'd look stunned before pulling me into a tight embrace. Right when I was 6 months pregnant, his vision suddenly returned. After returning from the follow-up hospital visit, we were told the residual blood clot in his brain had dissolved on its own. The doctor said it was thanks to my attentive care that the clot cleared up so quickly. He turned to look at me with a knowing smile. I really should thank her properly. At that moment, I was so overjoyed by what felt like divine mercy and the promise of better days ahead that I failed to notice his odd behavior. Back at home, he said he had a surprise for me and told me to close my eyes. I waited a moment, only to be met with a sharp pain in my abdomen. My eyes snapped open in terror. Lu Haji, splattered with my blood, held a sharp knife and drove it into my stomach with a vicious grin. He forcefully dragged the blade downward, reached into my stomach, and yanked out a bloody mass before hurling it to the ground. The thing was still attached by the umbilical cord, and I instantly realized what it was. As I screamed and tried to lunge forward, Lu Haji kicked me away and stomped down hard on the fetus on the ground. That tiny form instantly turned into a mushy, shapeless mess. Lu Haji sneered viciously, "You think you're worthy of carrying my child? If I weren't in need of someone to take care of me, do you really think I'd have married you? I'll be blunt with you. Every time I hit you, it was deliberate. I wanted to torment you, and you're so gullible, falling for my empty apologies every time. Ha ha ha." My heart ached so intensely I could barely breathe, and through tears, I asked him why he would do this. He glared at me coldly and said, "If it weren't for you forcing me into this marriage, Shiroway and I wouldn't have gotten into that car crash. You killed her. Now go to hell and pay for her life with yours." Only then did I realize how deeply he loved Su Shiroway. So deeply that he blamed me for her death all along, so deeply that he was willing to kill our unborn child for her sake. I just feel utterly pathetic, all those years of genuine affection thrown to the dogs. But it was too late for regrets. He approached me step by step, knife in hand, crouched down, and hacked into my body again and again until I was no longer recognizable. A wave of cheers erupted in the arena, snapping me back to reality. We won the match. Lu Haji and the rest of the team huddled together, cheering in celebration. Su Shiroway had quietly appeared by my side at some point. "Sis, we're going to celebrate, and Brother Lu specifically asked me to invite you along." She deliberately lingered on the word specifically. In the past, I would have foolishly delighted in thinking I held some special place in Lu Haji's heart. Looking back now, I realize that most of Lu Haji's special treatment toward me actually came through Su Shiroway's messages. I scoffed inwardly. They specifically called me over just to foot the bill, didn't they? They've always been this shameless. Win a match, go out for a celebratory meal. Lose a match, go out to boost morale. They wouldn't settle for just any place either. Only high-end restaurants would do. When the club funds ran low, they'd set their sights on me, pretending to invite me out when all they really wanted was for me to pay. At first, Lu Haji would pretend to be embarrassed and promise to pay me back. After it happened a few times, he stopped mentioning it altogether, and to save his pride, I always ended up picking up the tab. Now he's grown used to freeloading, and still expects me to foot the bill like a sucker. They really deserve to be taught a lesson. I smiled at Sushirue and replied, "Sure, let's go." I followed them to the restaurant. And with my encouragement, they ordered food and drinks without any restraint. A group of over 10 people ended up spending nearly 200,000 yuan. Once the dishes were mostly served, I grabbed my bag and stood up. "Take your time with the meal, I'm heading out first. Sis, won't you stay and have a bit more before you go?" Sushirue came over and held me back. I frowned and pushed her hand away. "I'm not eating. I've lost my appetite." Lu Heji arrogantly lifted his chin and tossed the bill at me. "You behaved quite sensibly today, I'll let yesterday's matter slide." This lavish spending really boosted his ego, no wonder he's in such high spirits. I watched his smug display with cold detachment, already looking forward to his reaction later. Amidst a crowd of amused onlookers, I picked up the bill and walked out. The moment I closed the door, the room erupted in roaring laughter. "Our man Lu is absolutely killing it. How did you get the Su family's daughter so head over heels for you? Share some tips, man, I'm so jealous, I wish she were my girlfriend too." Lu Heji let out a scoff amid the rowdy cheers. "What girlfriend? Just a clingy simp who can't live without me." I turned to look at the mirror in the hallway, reflecting my current appearance. At that time, I was still graceful and charming, not yet worn down from caring for a blind patient. Honestly, I had both wealth and looks, yet I still managed to ruin it all with my love-struck foolishness. Thank goodness for this second chance. Time to cut out this lovesick part of my brain. Screw Lu Heji, get out of my life. I tossed the bill into the hallway trash can, walked to the front desk, and told the server to add a bottle of fake yin mitai to Lu Heji's private room. Back home, I took a nice, relaxing bath and then hopped into bed to binge-watch some shows. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. The caller ID showed Lu Heji. "Looks like their dinner party wrapped up." I leisurely answered the call. Lu Heji's furious voice came through the phone. "Suji, why did you leave without paying the bill?" Hearing the chaotic noise and the sound of glass shattering on his end, I couldn't help but chuckle. "What's it to me? Weren't you the one who said you'd treat? Besides, I haven't touched a single dish you ordered. Stop messing around. Gigi, get over here now, we're all waiting for you." His voice grew husky and softened. He's always been good at using this tactic on me. Every time I'm disappointed and ready to give up on him, he drops his usual arrogance and coaxes me with gentle words, and I fall for it every single time. I shook my head with a wry smile, gazing at the moonlit scene outside the window, and spoke coldly into the phone. "Lu Heji, what have these 8 years meant to you? Get lost. I'm done putting up with you." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a furious outburst. Thankfully, I had already moved the phone away from my ear. I hung up the phone without hesitation and drifted off into a blissful sleep. Of course, I didn't forget to put my phone on silent mode, waking up to over a dozen missed calls. I could just picture the chaos that must have unfolded last night. I got out of bed feeling refreshed and went about my morning routine. As I came downstairs, Sushirue was already seated at the dining table. When she saw me, she shot me a resentful glare. I met her gaze directly, and she quickly averted her eyes, pretending to focus on her kanji. The folks at the club were the type to spend money as soon as they had it. Besides, since Lu Heji was the one who suggested last night's celebration, he ended up footing the bill for those 200,000 or 300,000. As for whether Lu Heji had money or not, I knew perfectly well. Every time I bought him gifts or transferred money to him, it almost always ended up in Sushirue's hands. I found this out in his previous life, after he went blind. When I went through his phone, I was trembling with rage and went to confront him, but he grabbed me by the hair and slammed my head against the wooden table, roaring, "Shirue is already dead, why are you still hung up on this?" Later, he kept begging for forgiveness, and I thought to myself, since Sushirue had passed away, it was better to let it go. All that mattered was that we could move forward together. How pathetic. I loved him with every fiber of my being, yet he was secretly simping for Sushirue behind my back. Since no one in the group had money, he had no choice but to borrow from Sushirue. He probably drained most of her savings last night. No wonder she couldn't sleep a wink. Noticing the dark circles under her eyes, her mother asked with concern if she hadn't slept well. She glanced at me and forced a smile. "There was training at the club last night," she said. "I had to work late." Her father put down his newspaper and looked at her with heartache in his eyes. "If it doesn't work out, just quit your club job and come intern under Gigi at the company. She'll look out for you." This time, Sushirue didn't refuse and quietly said she'd think about it. Sushirue came to live with us after my second uncle passed away. And my parents treat her like their own. Whatever I have, they never forget to get her one too. They care for her just as much as they care for me. Sometimes it even makes me jealous. In high school, I was so caught up with Lu Hezi that my grades plummeted, while she got into a pretty decent university. After college, I took my parents' advice and joined the family business as an intern at the bottom, working my way up to where I am now. But she, banking on her prestigious degree, refused to intern at the company despite our parents' pleas, insisting on finding her own job. She turned her nose up at small companies, and big companies weren't interested in her. After striking out everywhere, she ended up applying for a manager position at Lu Hezi's basketball club. I once tried to persuade her to join the company, but she told me, "Sister, you like brother Lu so much, I'll keep an eye on him for you. We can't let other women snatch him away." At the time, I was touched that she cared so much about me, and I often bought her gifts. Looking back now, her real intention was just to get close to Lu Hezi. After our parents left, Su Shirue couldn't hold back and spoke up. "Sis, you went too far last night. How could you just leave without paying the bill? You have no idea how embarrassed brother Lu was. Everyone was waiting for you to come back, but you didn't even answer your phone." I leisurely finished the soy milk in my bowl. "Didn't you say Lu Hezi invited me to celebrate? I thought he was treating. Besides, I didn't even take a single bite. Why should I be the one to pay?" Her face flushed crimson. "But you always paid before. And your brother Lu's girlfriend. Why are you making such a fuss over a few bucks? I talked to brother Lu for ages. He said he'll let it slide if you just pay him back for yesterday." My expression turned icy. "Do you really take me for a fool? How come all the gifts I bought for Lu Hezi ended up in your room, and you still claim nothing's going on between you two? I put up with you time and again out of respect for our parents, but from now on, do whatever you want. Just keep your nonsense away from me." With that, I ignored her sour expression, grabbed the keys from the table, and walked straight out the door. I have no time to waste on her. I finally closed a contract I'd been working on for a while. The other party scheduled a meeting to sign it, but when I arrived, the venue was hosting a basketball game, and wouldn't you know it, I spotted Lu Hezi among the players taking the field. The assistant handling my visit eagerly found me a seat, asking me to wait a moment as their young master Su Yang was currently competing on the court. I couldn't help but twitch my lips. What an eccentric young master indeed. Since I was already here, I figured I might as well sit down and catch the game. I never missed Lu Hezi's games, so I picked up some knowledge about basketball along the way. Su Yang's moves were sharp and precise, and his coordination with the team was seamless. In contrast, Lu Hezi's side was disorganized, and his own performance was riddled with mistakes. It looks like Lu Hezi is bound to lose today. Sure enough, by the end of the game, Su Yang's team was leading by a wide margin. I got up and walked off the field. Sitting on the edge of the flower bed to wait for Su Yang, a shadow fell over me as Lu Hezi approached. Despite losing the match, he seemed to be in surprisingly good spirits. "Su Ji, where's all that arrogance from our phone call last night? It's only been a few hours, and here you are, eagerly seeking me out." I stared at him speechlessly, but he mistook my silence for him hitting a nerve. He said with a smug grin, "If you apologize sincerely enough, I might just let last night slide." I cut him off before he could finish. "What makes you think I came here for you? Your oversized ego. Stop pretending. You were totally checking me out during the game. If you hadn't been staring, I wouldn't have." He shut his mouth in annoyance. I thought about it. Su Yang is a forward, and so is Lu Hezi. I had been staring intently at Su Yang earlier, and my gaze did sweep past Lu Hezi a few times. "You've got it all wrong. I was looking at your opponent. He's way better looking than you." "Su Ji, what are you even trying to pull? Saying all that just to make me jealous? I already told you, if you just apologize, I'll let what happened before slide. What more do you want?" Lu Hezi's expression seemed genuine, and it made me wonder just how love-struck I must have been to give him so much confidence. In an instant, memories of my past life's obsession flooded back, how I cared for him wholeheartedly, only to be repaid with the agony of him stabbing me in the abdomen and tearing out our unborn child. I stared into his eyes and spoke each word deliberately. "Let's break up, Lu Hezi. I don't love you anymore." He froze, seemingly unable to believe I would say such things to him. After all, no matter how poorly he'd treated me before, a single soothing word would always make me obediently back down. Lu Hezi frowned and ran his fingers through his hair in frustration. "What's this all about? Is it because of Shirue?" "There's absolutely nothing going on between us. Whether there is or isn't anything between you is none of my business. You're free to pursue her properly now. A perfect match made in hell. May you two be stuck with each other forever. Lu Hezhi raised his hand in fury, but just as his palm was about to strike my face, someone blocked it. Su Yang, now changed out of his jersey and into a formal suit with gold-rimmed glasses, gripped Lu Hezhi's wrist and sneered. You can't even play ball properly, and now you're hitting a woman. I'm starting to doubt if you're even a man. None of your damn business. Get lost. Lu Hezhi's tone was hostile. Su Yang brushed his hand aside and stepped in front of me. If anyone's leaving, it should be you. Miss Su is my guest here. Lu Hezhi sneered, his eyes scanning me repeatedly. No wonder you wanted to break up with me. Turns out you were the one cheating all along. You rejected my proposal last time. And now you're trying to pin the blame on me and Shiroway. I can't believe I wasted 8 years entangled with a man like this. Right now, I wish I could just start my life over from scratch. Don't assume everyone thinks like you do. You know exactly what your intentions are towards Su Shiroway. Or let me put it this way, where did all the gifts and money I gave you end up going? Lu Hezhi's face darkened, unable to utter a single word in response. All the gifts ended up with Su Shiroway. So of course he had nothing to say to me. I looked at him with a cold sneer. Save yourself some dignity, Lu Hezhi, we're done from now on. I didn't want to waste any more time on him, so I turned to Su Yang with a smile and said, my apologies for the personal matter, Mr. Su, shall we move to discuss business elsewhere? I escorted Su Yang to the private room I had reserved and presented the contract for signing. Su Yang extended his hand with a smile. Pleasure doing business with you, Su Ji. His gaze lowered slightly, those captivating almond-shaped eyes smiling behind his glasses, utterly mesmerizing. Damn it, my internal alarm bells went off as I tried to calm my racing heart. I can't afford to fall for this again. I shook his hand firmly and said, pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Su. During the meal, he suddenly turned to me and asked, Su Ji, you really don't remember me? Seeing my blank expression, he sighed, never mind, we'll talk about it another time. Su Shiroway eventually resigned from her club job and reported to the company. I assigned her to the management department as an intern, she said with clear dissatisfaction. Didn't Uncle say you were supposed to look out for me? Why am I still stuck as an intern? I shot her a cold glance. Everyone starts as an intern. Did you really expect to skip the line with your lack of skills? Her expression tightened. But she forced a smile. That's not what I meant. I just thought I could learn more by working directly with you. Focus on mastering the basics first. I told her to get back to work, and I didn't miss the resentment in her eyes. It seems I'll have to keep an eye on her from now on. After all, a dog that bites rarely barks first. But I soon regretted letting her join the company. Lu Hezhi came to pick Su Shiroway up after work every day, rain or shine. I used to pester Lu Hezhi to pick me up all the time, but he always refused. It wasn't until I bought him a Kawasaki that he was in a better mood and occasionally came to get me. I always thought it was just his personality, but now with the contrast, I feel even more foolish about my past self. But just because of those few times he picked me up, most people at the company knew Lu Hezhi was my boyfriend. Now he uses the Kawasaki I gave him to chauffeur Su Shiroway every single day. And whether it's intentional or not, he always parks it right in front of the office building, impossible to miss, making sure every colleague leaving work sees it. Overnight, I became the talk of the office. A few days later, stories about my glorious career as a lovesick fool were circulating widely around the company. Su Shiroway definitely had a hand in stirring things up behind the scenes. I was furious but powerless. After all, these things really happened, and I couldn't control what people said. I brought this up with Su Yang when we had some downtime. It wasn't until later that I found out Su Yang and I actually went to the same high school. He was a year ahead of me. That connection brought us closer. Su Yang listened to my story and replied with a smile, no big deal, fight fire with fire, just wait and see. He was being all mysterious. No matter how much I pressed him, he wouldn't say a word, only that I'd find out after work, when it was time to leave. I hadn't even stepped out of the office before hearing a commotion at the entrance. When I stepped outside, I noticed a flashy red convertible parked right next to Lu Hezhi's Kawasaki. The back seat of the sports car was filled with pink roses, and Su Yang was leaning against the car door, holding a bouquet of roses in his hand. Seeing me walk out, he smiled and came over. He was already good-looking, but when he smiled with those captivating peach blossom eyes, he was downright irresistible. He handed me the rose he was holding. Would you do me the honor of joining me for dinner? Please don't turn me down today." Amidst the murmurs around us, I caught sight of Lu Hejie and Su Shirue's livid expressions, and I couldn't help but feel utterly delighted. I took the rose and pretended to think it over with feigned reserve. "Since you're being so sincere, alright then." I got in the car with Su Yang, and we deliberately drove past Lu Hejie, leaving him in a cloud of exhaust fumes. As the car drove off into the distance, I buried my face in the bouquet and burst out laughing. "That happy, huh?" I laughed and looked up. You should have seen their faces. The office gossip will definitely take a new turn tomorrow, with Su Yang playing my admirer today, someone both handsome and wealthy. Who'd believe I'd ever fawn over Lu Hejie? Su Yang gave a soft smile and reached out to ruffle my hair. I sensed a hint of affection in his gesture and felt a bit flustered. Smoothing my hair self-consciously, "Su Yang, thanks for treating me today. Let me get dinner this time." Su Yang tapped his fingers lightly on the steering wheel. "Sure. I'm actually a bit hungry. You pick the place." I chose a Western restaurant I'd been to a few times. Their steak is absolutely incredible. We arrived right at the dinner rush, and the place was packed. A server came over with an apologetic look and asked if we'd mind sharing a table. I glanced at Su Yang, who shrugged to show he didn't mind. I gave the server a nod. The very next moment, I regretted it. I saw the waiter leading Lu Hejie and Su Shirue over. When Lu Hejie spotted me, his expression instantly soured, as if he wanted to turn and leave, but Su Shirue held him back, and he reluctantly walked over with a grimace. My expression was even more unpleasant than his, while Su Yang looked downright gleeful, noticing me glaring at him out of the corner of my eye. He grinned from ear to ear and whispered, "Keep your expression in check. Don't give us away." Su Shirue greeted me with a smile. "Hey, what a coincidence. Mind if we join you here?" I replied with a forced smile. "Sure, have a seat." The wait for the food was agonizing, so I made up an excuse to slip away to the restroom. As I stepped out after washing my hands, there was Lu Hejie, lingering ominously by the corridor. I didn't even want to glance at him. Just walked past him without a second thought, but he called out to me, "Su Ji, didn't you say you had nothing to do with that person? What's going on now?" I looked at him in surprise. "What does my business have to do with you? We broke up, and you've already gotten what you wanted by pursuing Su Shirue. Isn't it inappropriate for you to meddle in my affairs now?" He paused for a moment, his brow slightly furrowed. "There's nothing between me and Shirue," he trailed off, seeming somewhat annoyed. Then resumed his usual tone, "I just think that guy seems shady. You're so naive. I don't want to see you get fooled. Considering our past, don't mistake my kindness for weakness." I let out a series of cold, mocking laughs. "Exactly. If I weren't so foolish, how could I have been deceived by you for so long?" He looked utterly choked up, but I ignored him and walked back to my seat. The dishes were finally served, but I'd lost my appetite and was just forcing down the steak like chewing on wax. As expected, seeing someone disgusting really ruins your appetite. Su Yang picked up a napkin and chuckled as he wiped the sauce splattered on my face. My irritation eased up a little. Even though I was the one who invited him to dinner, I ended up sulking alone. Suddenly I felt a bit guilty towards Su Yang. I gave him a tight-lipped smile. The clatter of silverware hitting the floor came from across the table. Su Shirue murmured under her breath, "How could you be so careless?" She then signaled a waiter to bring Lu Hejie a new set of cutlery. She said to me with a smile, "You and brother Su Yang seem really close. I was only gone for a bathroom break, and she's already calling him brother." I looked at Su Yang in surprise, and he just shrugged, indicating he had no idea what was going on. I didn't want to engage with her, so I took a sip of my drink and pretended not to hear her. She seemed completely oblivious to my impatient expression and just kept talking. "No wonder you turned down brother Lu's proposal. I thought you were just upset about his clueless way of proposing, but it turns out you already had someone better in mind. But honestly, that's not right of you. If you've already moved on, you shouldn't have kept stringing brother Lu along. You should have made it clear to him earlier, otherwise, brother Su Yang would unwittingly become the third wheel, and that wouldn't look good for him either, don't you think?" Su Shirue leisurely cut into her steak, her almond-shaped eyes sparkling with amusement as she looked at me. With just a few words, she painted me as a heartless cheater. If I weren't the target, I'd probably be standing up applauding her performance. Lu Hejie beside her glared at me with a livid face, eyes full of contempt. I was speechless. One had the audacity to say it, the other the gullibility to believe it, both completely lacking self-awareness. I wasn't about to spare their feelings and called them out directly. Last month on my birthday, Lu Hejie claimed he had something to do and couldn't be with me. Yet he went on a 3-day trip to Zishuangbana with you. Am I right, dear sister? I'd like to know. What kind of boyfriend takes another woman on a 3-day trip on his girlfriend's birthday? If this got out online, you two would definitely trend and get torn apart by the public. Not long after returning, Lu Hezi proposed to me with a lousy soda can ring. Let me guess. Did something happen between you two during the trip, and then you came back and acted like nothing happened? So he proposed to me just to test your reaction, didn't he? With every word I said, Su Shirue's face grew darker. By the time I finished, not a trace of a smile remained on her face. I only learned all this in my past life by reading their chat history on Lu Hezi's phone. She thought she'd kept it perfectly hidden, never expecting I'd been reborn with memories intact. She forced a strained smile. Why would you think that, sis? The trip was just a lucky draw win. I only asked Brother Lu to accompany me because I was too scared to go alone. I had no idea it was your birthday that day. Besides, Brother Lu's proposal was definitely sincere. You can't just slander us like this because you have Su Yang in your life now, can you? She looked on the verge of tears, putting on a show as if she'd been grievously wronged. My face darkened, and I was just about to throw my drink in her face. Su Yang grabbed my hand and spoke before I could. Miss Su, I think you've misunderstood. I'm still in the process of pursuing Gigi. I can't exactly be called her new partner yet. And before I started pursuing Gigi, I clearly heard that she had broken up with this Mr. Lu. Miss Su, you're not quite up to date. Better not make assumptions and embarrass yourself. Besides, I'm a bit particular about boundaries. I don't make a habit of casually calling people little sister, so I'd appreciate it if you'd be more mindful of how you address me. Miss Su. Su Shirue's expression immediately turned awkward. Under the table, I discreetly gave Su Yang a thumbs up, and he responded by playfully flicking the back of my hand with a smile. Lu Hezi slammed his cutlery on the table, drawing sidelong glances from others. He snapped angrily, Su Ji, if you have any grievances, direct them at me. I was the one who suggested going on the trip with Shirue. If there's any blame to be had, it's on me. Shirue has nothing to do with this. He thought he was defending Su Shirue, completely oblivious to the fact that her face had turned as dark as a storm cloud. I could hardly hold back from clapping and laughing out loud. Lu Hezi might as well have admitted that something really did happen during their trip. Su Shirue's earlier excuses were like a slap right across her own face. Seeing the grim expression on Su Shirue's face, it finally dawned on Lu Hezi that he might have misspoken. He was anxious to make amends and save face for Su Shirue, but he wasn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. So, to Su Shirue's utter astonishment, he dropped to one knee and spoke to her. Shirue, now that everything's out in the open and I've broken up with Su Ji, you don't need to hold back because of her feelings anymore. The truth is, it's always been you that I love. Will you marry me? His eyes were sincere as he held up a ring he'd just pulled from a soda can. Su Shirue grew increasingly embarrassed by the murmurs around her. Wishing she could just disappear into the ground if there were a crack, I propped my chin on my hand, grinning as I added fuel to the fire. How touching. This is your brother Lu's sincere feelings. Aren't you going to accept it, dear sister? Don't follow my example. I'm far too vain. Su Shirue's hand, which had been raised to refuse, paused mid-air. Gritting her teeth, she reached out and let Lu Hezi slip the ring onto her finger. Lu Hezi joyfully embraced Su Shirue, and I applauded beside them, congratulating the happy couple on finally being together. Congratulations. Don't forget to tell mom and dad about this good news. They've been setting you up with quite a few eligible matches lately. Bring him home soon. They'll be thrilled. Lu Hezi sneered. Don't even think about driving a wedge between us. Shirue isn't vain like you. Without a word, Su Shirue pulled a long face, unwilling to stay a second longer, and dragged Lu Hezi out of the restaurant in haste. Su Yang watched their retreating figures with keen interest, raising an eyebrow as he remarked, "Seems your sister was just stringing that guy along. Now that she's been forced into accepting his proposal, she's probably fuming." I hadn't expected Su Yang to see through it so clearly. Lu Hezi thought Su Shirue was hesitating to accept him out of consideration for my feelings. What a hopeless fool. Su Shirue clearly looked down on him, yet couldn't bear to let him go, so she kept using me as her shield. She started working at the club 2 years ago, supposedly to keep an eye on Lu Hezi for me. But in reality, she went to great lengths to cozy up to him. Lu Hezi quickly fell for her and would have given her the world, yet she used the excuse, "You're my sister's boyfriend, I like you but can't break her heart," to accept his gifts while turning him against me even more. I could never figure out why. Even after everything was out in the open, Sushirue still dragged her feet about getting together with him. I thought her hostility towards me was all about stealing my boyfriend just to show off, until one day in the break room, I overheard her talking about her ideal partner, handsome, wealthy, and willing to spend money on her. But life isn't some romantic drama. She had no way to meet high society types, and everyone around her was just ordinary, in comparison. Lu Heji was the closest match to her criteria. He's handsome and willing to give her every penny he has, but the problem is, Lu Heji doesn't have any money. All his money came from me. After I broke up with him, he only had his salary to rely on. How could that ever satisfy Sushirue's greed? But Lu Heji is handsome enough that keeping him around boosts her ego and annoys me, so she can't bring herself to dump him. Today, she saw that Su Yang is handsome, wealthy, and openly pursuing me. Blinded by jealousy, she tried to stir up trouble, but I turned the tables on her. With Lu Heji's foolishness adding to the mess, she had no choice but to reluctantly accept the marriage proposal. Just thinking about how to ditch Lu Heji is probably enough to keep her up at night for days. After watching such an entertaining drama unfold, I was in high spirits and ordered another dessert to enjoy. I called the waiter to settle the bill, only to be told that Su Yang had already taken care of it. I looked at him puzzled, and Su Yang said with a smile, "You treated me to quite a show, so let me pick up the tab this time." He gave me a sly wink, "But you still owe me a meal. Don't even think about weaseling out of it." My ears grew warm as I smiled and agreed. After dinner, Su Yang drove me home. The summer night breeze still carried the day's lingering warmth, lulling me into drowsiness. I was still lost in thought when we arrived, only snapping back to reality when I felt the cool touch of fingers gently brushing my cheek. Leaning against the steering wheel, Su Yang gazed at me with a soft smile. Under his gaze, the summer evening breeze felt unusually warm, doing little to cool the heat rising to my cheeks. I stammered, Thank you for today, and next time, it's my treat." Su Yang chuckled and poked my cheek playfully. "Suji, ever thought about taking me home with you?" I never expected him to say that so abruptly. My mind instantly flashed back to my past life's overwhelming love for Lu Heji, which ultimately led to my tragic end with not even a trace of my remains left. The flush faded from my face. Having just escaped a toxic relationship, I was in no way prepared to embrace another emotional entanglement. I clenched my fingers tightly, hesitating over how to respond to Su Yang. Su Yang let out a soft sigh and reached over to gently pry open my tightly clenched fingers. "How much pain did he cause you? To make you tremble at a mere confession?" "Suji, don't be afraid, I just wanted to tell you how I feel, that's all." He got out of the car and opened the door for me, smiling as he handed me roses from the back seat along with a box of the same little cakes I'd been enjoying at the restaurant. Even after finishing, I still wanted more but felt too shy to order another. I thought I'd just come back for it another time, but I never expected Su Yang to notice even that. A wave of warmth washed over my heart, melting away the fear those memories had left behind. I pressed my lips together, smiling as I said goodbye to him. After that, Su Yang and I got along just as before, though he'd occasionally drop a few sweet nothings that made me blush. I was like a seed stubbornly refusing to sprout in the mud, while Su Yang stayed by my side, patiently watering and nurturing me without ever rushing. Sometimes I'd be invited to watch Su Yang's basketball games. As soon as I entered the venue, he escorted me to the VIP seats and handed me a snack he had prepared in advance. I only hurried back to the court after my teammates repeatedly urged me. Amused, I opened the snack. It was the exact brand of gummies I had casually mentioned craving a few days earlier. I had completely forgotten about it, but he remembered. I put the candy in my mouth, feeling its sweetness flood my palate and gently seep into the depths of my heart. "Shuji." A man's voice called my name from behind. I turned to look and saw a stout, middle-aged man. His face lit up with surprise as he laughed. "It's really you, long time no see." It took me a moment to recall that he was the president of Lu Heji's basketball club. I smiled and nodded at him. "President Hao, long time no see. Is there a game today?" He waved his hand dismissively and shook his head. "What's the point of competing? The club's been disbanded." I wasn't surprised. His team members were mediocre at best and rarely got any publicity. If it weren't for my monthly funding of over 100,000, they would have folded long ago. I nodded, not wanting to discuss it further. Minister Hao picked up on my reluctance and tactfully dropped the subject. After the match ended, Su Yang texted me, asking me to wait in my seat while he changed clothes to pick me up for dinner. He sent an adorable bunny emoji, and I chuckled softly before replying with an OK sticker. Then, a familiar voice came from behind me. Director, is there really no other way? We've been together for so long and grown close, we really don't want to disband. That's Lu Heji's voice. I thought to myself, just my luck to run into him here. If I got up now, I'd have to face him. I kept my head down, hoping Minister Hao would take him outside to talk. Minister Hao sounded troubled and said with a sigh, this club was my passion project too. I really had no other choice but to announce its dissolution. You know how things are right now, we just can't keep the finances afloat anymore. But we've been in similar situations before and managed to pull through. Minister Hao, you're not embezzling the funds, are you? Lu Heji truly never looks at his own faults first. The moment those words left his mouth, I knew we were doomed, just as expected. Minister Hao flew into a rage and snapped at him. Are you out of your mind, Lu Heji? If it weren't for Suji pouring money into this club every single month, you'd have been long gone. She specifically asked me not to tell any of you, just to protect your fragile ego. Minister Hao reached out and patted me on the shoulder. Right, Suji. I turned around under Lu Heji's astonished gaze, too embarrassed to even know what to say. Still fuming, Minister Hao continued to berate. You guys are mediocre players but demand the world when it comes to food and drinks. I've been wanting to wash my hands of you for ages. If it weren't for Suji begging me nonstop and pouring both money and effort into this, do you think this club would still be standing? Do us all a favor and get lost. With that, he shoved Lu Heji aside and stormed out in a huff. Having my past mistakes brought up like that made me cringe so hard I could feel my scalp crawling. I'd hoped Lu Heji would have the sense to leave with Minister Hao, but he just stood there frozen, rooted to the spot like a wooden post. Feeling the scorching gaze burning into my back, I knew I had to get out of there. I grabbed my things and stood up to leave, but Lu Heji blocked my path. Suji, I had no idea you've done so much for me behind the scenes. Why didn't you tell me? His obstruction stirred up a wave of irritation within me. What's the point of telling you? It was all one-sided on my part before. Now that we've broken up, let's just drop it. His eyes burned with resentment as he stared intently at me. After all these years of liking me, can you really just let go that easily? I frowned at him. What does years of affection even mean? You changed your heart just like that. I muttered a half-hearted His face instantly turned pale. Flustered at having his secret exposed so directly. Lu Heji, if you fell out of love, you should have told me. Instead, you belittled me while loving someone else. We didn't have to end up like this. He lowered his head and looked at me pleadingly. I was wrong, Gigi. After we broke up, I realized you're the only one I've ever loved. Please give me another chance. If he'd said this to me before, I would have given him my heart without hesitation. But now, it just irritates me. I didn't want to drag this out any longer, so I said coldly, Lu Heji. You're only saying all this because you realized Su Shirue's feelings for you have changed. You know you're about to get dumped, so now you come crawling back to me. Is that it? I must have been blind to have loved a scumbag like you for 8 years. You're disgusting, and so is your love. All I want now is for you to stay out of my life forever. His face instantly darkened as if frozen over with frost. He glared past me with a twisted expression. You weren't like this before. It's because of him, isn't it, Shuji? When he dumps you, you'll come crawling back to me. I noticed the dangerous shift in his demeanor and immediately tried to step away. He pulled me into his embrace, and before I could react, his lips came crashing down on mine. It was only then that I snapped out of my shock and struggled desperately, but his strength overpowered me, leaving me unable to break free. Suddenly, a powerful force pried his hands away, and I was swept into another's arms. My senses filled with the fresh scent of shower gel from this new person. A pair of slender, well-defined fingers gently brushed across my face, and I realized, to my surprise, that tears had been streaming down my cheeks unnoticed. Su Yang's voice was barely a whisper, as if afraid of startling me. Don't cry, Suji, I'm right here. Lu Heji's voice came from behind, tinged with a hint of amusement. Sorry, man. She just jumped into my arms and started kissing me the moment she saw me. What was I supposed to do? Su Yang gently stroked my head, sensing that I had calmed down, and guided me to a seat nearby. He then stood up and walked toward Lu Heji. Noticing his clenched fist, I frantically grabbed his sleeve. I didn't want to see Su Yang get hurt. Meeting my gaze, his eyes softened. He patted the back of my hand and whispered, trust me. I released my grip on the hem of his shirt. Lu Heji was still standing there, taunting with a mocking grin. Suji. This isn't right. Why are you still hung up on your ex? Then again, you did follow me for 8 years and gave me everything. It's only natural you can't let go." Before he could finish, Su Yang's fist sent him crashing to the ground. Su Yang's gaze was as cold as ice. "All I regret now is not standing my ground back then, letting a scumbag like you waste 8 years of her life." Soon after, someone called the police. Officers quickly arrived and separated the two brawling men. After a stern lecture, they notified relatives from both sides to come pick them up. I hurried over, and the officer asked me what my relationship with Su Yang was. I paused, looked up into Su Yang's eyes, and replied earnestly, "I'm his girlfriend." Su Yang's eyes instantly lit up, a slight smile tugging at his lips, but he accidentally pulled on his wound and winced with a sharp hiss. I quickly guided him to a stone bench nearby. Pulling out the first aid supplies and chilled towel I'd bought earlier, his face bore 2 bruised patches that were starting to swell, and there were several scrapes on his hands. I had him press a towel soaked in ice water against his face to reduce the swelling, then used a cotton swab dipped in iodine to disinfect the cuts on his hand. I frowned, feeling tears well up and fall once again. Su Yang gently wiped my lower eyelid with his finger, brushing away the teardrop. "Gigi, don't cry. From now on, no matter when or where, I'll always be here to protect you." His fingers brushed over my lips, his eyes filled with tenderness. I must have rubbed too hard with the wet wipe earlier. My lips are probably red, swollen, and chapped. He leaned in and gently pressed his lips to mine. I didn't pull away, feeling my face flush and my heartbeat quicken. A faint flutter stirred deep in my heart. That seed buried in the mud had finally begun to sprout. "Come on, what are you standing there for?" Su Shirue's impatient voice rang out. Su Yang and I turned to look. Lu Heji stood not far away, glaring at us with a grim expression. Only then did I notice his entire face was swollen like a pig's head, looking utterly ridiculous and absurd. Lu Heji turned his head to look at Su Shirue. "Shirue, I'm hurt. Why didn't you bring me any medicine?" Su Shirue stared back at him with visible irritation. "Why bother with medicine for such a minor injury? I'm swamped with work and already annoyed at having to come pick you up. Don't make things worse." With that, she turned her back on Lu Heji and walked away without another glance. Lu Heji stared intently at Su Shirue's retreating figure, his expression dark and brooding. Su Shirue was indeed extremely busy. She mentioned to her parents a few days ago that she'd like them to set her up with someone. So she's been going on blind dates with all sorts of guys lately. Lu Heji's gaze at Su Shirue was really off. "I'm wondering if I should warn her, especially since in his past life he was even capable of murder." Su Yang turned my face back toward him, looking all pouty and hurt. "If you keep staring, I'm going to get jealous." I burst out laughing, but my heart ached at the sight of the bruises on his face. He let out a helpless sigh. "Seems I'll have to tell you a story to cheer you up, one I originally planned to share on our wedding night." His mention of wedding night made me blush, yet it also piqued my curiosity. Noticing my curiosity, he deliberately kept me in suspense. He whisked me off to the supermarket to buy some meat and vegetables, saying he'd cook me dinner. He took me back to his place, had me sit and watch TV while he busied himself in the kitchen. Soon enough, a full meal of 3 dishes and a soup, all aromatic and beautifully presented, was served. I stared at him in amazement. "Is there anything you can't do?" He smiled mysteriously. "You'll have to figure that out for yourself." I looked at him with a skeptical expression. "You're so perfect. How come you've never had a girlfriend? You're not trying to trick me into a marriage because your family is pressuring you, are you?" His smile froze, and he tapped my head in exasperation before shaking his head with a laugh. "What's going on in that head of yours? The reason I don't have a girlfriend is probably because there's already someone special in my heart." I could tell from his words that the person on his mind was probably me, but I never thought I had what it takes to win the heart of such a perfect man. Eager to find out the answer, I wolfed down my meal. After eating, I even eagerly rushed to do the dishes. After everything was done, I sat on the couch staring at him eagerly, urging him to hurry up and tell me. He smiled helplessly, walked into the room, and brought out a velvet box. Placing it in my hand, I opened it to find a slightly worn rectangular badge inside, engraved with the name Suji and a line of blue text bearing the name of my high school. This was the badge I used to wear back in high school. Looking at my completely forgotten expression, Su Yang sighed. "I knew you wouldn't remember. In high school, I had poor health and often suffered from low blood sugar. One time after school, I had an episode, dizzy and vision blurring. I was about to tumble down the stairs. I thought it was over for me, but someone caught me. To this day, I'm still amazed how your slender frame managed to carry a guy a head taller than you all the way to the infirmary. In my dazed state, I heard you burst in shouting, "Teacher, it's bad, this student is dying." I was so exasperated I passed out right then. Su Yang's fingers gently traced the badge, his eyes crinkling with a tender smile. As he spoke, the memory slowly came back to me. When I woke up, I found that some scatterbrain had left their badge with me. I looked up your class based on the name, wanting to thank you. You were hiding under the desk eating, your cheeks puffed up like an adorable little squirrel. Hearing someone call for you, you glanced toward the door, then beamed and came running toward me. My heart started pounding like a drum. I think that's when I fell for you. But you brushed right past me and threw yourself into the arms of the guy behind me. Recalling that scene, Su Yang's voice took on a bitter tone, went from crushing to heartbroken in a second. And the one who caused it didn't even have a clue. Su Yang reached out to pinch my cheek, only to find my face already streaked with tears. He frantically grabbed a tissue to wipe my face, his voice filled with panic. "What's wrong?" "I was just joking." He forced a casual laugh and said, "Well, I've caught up with you now, haven't I?" Guess my teenage crush finally paid off. Seeing that I was still crying uncontrollably, he pulled me into his arms and gently comforted me. "What I regret most is backing down back then, just secretly keeping your badge. If I'd been braver, maybe I could have protected you from getting hurt." I sobbed until my voice broke. While I'd been wasting my time obsessing over Lu Heji and making a mess of myself, there was a boy who'd cherished me in his heart for 8 whole years. Su Yang's voice carried a hint of frustration. "I shouldn't have told you. I meant to cheer you up. But I ended up making you sad instead." I quickly grabbed his hand to explain, "I'm not sad, I'm actually happy." To be honest, that terrible relationship made me wonder if I was so worthless that I didn't deserve love at all. "Thank goodness you came along." Su Yang's expression softened with tenderness. "You deserve all the good things in the world, Su Ji." After we cleared the air, Su Yang drove me home. With our feelings out in the open, we became all lovey-dovey. I couldn't help but linger in the car a little longer, chatting with him. By chance, I glanced out the window and spotted Su Shirue in a heated argument with a woman not far away. I looked closely and recognized from the woman's somewhat aged features that she was the aunt who had abandoned Su Shirue and run away all those years ago. I rolled down the car window a crack and faintly heard their argument. "Shirue, I am your birth mother after all. Now that you're living well, you can't just abandon me. When you ran off with your lover and left me behind, why didn't you remember you were my mother?" I had no choice back then. That monster Su Guohua would beat me every time he lost money. If I hadn't run away, he would have beaten me to death. Su Shirue's expression froze, tears streaming down her face. "So you just left me with him without a second thought? Weren't you afraid he'd kill me too?" The woman murmured in a trembling voice. "Anyway, no one's looking after me now, and I don't care. You're my daughter, so you have to support me." Su Shirue, unable to break free from the woman's grip, furiously pulled out a wad of cash from her bag and threw it at the woman. Get out now." The woman immediately beamed with joy and crouched down to pick up the money. Su Shirue shot her a glare, then turned and ran back into the house. I closed the window too. "I suppose this is what they mean by every villain has a tragic backstory," Su Yang warned me. "Don't be too soft-hearted, everyone has their own fate. Your family took her in and treated her well. Yet she still holds a grudge against you. That shows she's not the type to return kindness. I think it's best to keep your distance." I smiled at him. "I know, I'm not stupid. I won't make the same mistake twice." After saying goodbye to Su Yang, I returned home to find Su Shirue sitting on the couch chatting on her phone. She looked up and greeted me when she saw me come in. Noticing her still slightly swollen eyes, I paused as I passed by, remembering Lu Heji's sinister expression. I decided to speak up and warn her, "If you're determined to cut ties with Lu Heji, make a clean break. He's the brooding type, you should be careful around him." She dismissed it with a shrug. "Lu Heji may look tall and strong, but he's actually a coward. What's there to worry about? Don't tell me you're still hung up on him, sis." Seeing she wasn't convinced, I dropped the subject. Later I introduced Su Yang to my parents, and they were absolutely thrilled with him. After he left, they immediately started flipping through the calendar to find an auspicious date for our wedding. I laughed and playfully scolded them. "It's way too soon. I still want to be your little girl for a while longer." Mom sighed and pulled me into a warm embrace. "To be honest, when you were dating that Lu guy, I was constantly on edge. I kept having nightmares where you were pregnant, covered in blood, crying for help, but I could never reach you. My heart, it ached terribly every time I woke up." Seeing Soo-young now finally puts my mind at ease. He's such a good young man, I can tell his eyes are only for you. We feel completely comfortable entrusting you to his care. I buried my face in my mother's shoulder, unable to bear imagining how devastated my parents must have been in my previous life when they learned Liu Heji had chopped me into pieces. My father spoke up with a warm smile. All right now. I told you not to talk about that dream, you'll frighten Gigi. I also think Soo-young seems like a fine young man. Since you're truly committed to each other, we should arrange for both families to meet when you have time. I had to lay on the charm pretty thick before my parents finally dropped their plan to visit Soo-young's parents today. During dinner, Mom was in such high spirits that she couldn't resist asking about Soo Shirue's recent situation. Shirue, how are things going with that Chen family's son? His parents told me they're quite taken with you. If you two settle down, it would be wonderful if you could get married on the same day as Gigi. That would be double the celebration. Soo Shirue's expression froze, her face turning slightly pale. Auntie, I don't think we're really compatible after all. Mom frowned at first, but then her expression softened with acceptance. No worries, marriage only works when both people feel right about it. Should I introduce you to a few other people to get to know? That's alright, Auntie. I don't really want to do any more blind dates for now. I'd rather focus on my career and self-improvement. Let's talk about marriage another time. Mom was about to say more, but Dad stopped her. It's good that our daughter wants to better herself. Once she becomes more accomplished, she'll have no trouble finding a suitable partner. Just let her be. I glanced at Soo Shirue with some confusion. Her recent work performance completely contradicted her words. Not only was her efficiency dropping, but she kept making mistakes. The team lead from management had approached me several times in private, hinting that keeping her on would only hold the team back. I thought she was preoccupied with blind dates lately and not focused on work, so I asked the team leader to assign her some simple, non-urgent tasks, assuming she would naturally resign after getting married. Since she has no plans to marry but keeps making mistakes at work, I need to have a talk with her. I can't just let her hold back the rest of the team. I called Soo Shirue into the office. She seemed to have lost a lot of weight recently, looking quite unsteady on her feet. I asked her to take a seat and inquired if she was facing any difficulties at work lately. She shook her head and said no. I frowned and slammed the flawed proposal down in front of her. No, then what have you been doing lately? These are such basic mistakes. You never made errors like this when you first joined the team. She lowered her head and stayed silent. I sighed and said, you told Mom and Dad you didn't want to go on blind dates because you needed more time to focus on your career and improve yourself. Is this how you're improving? If you have nothing to say for yourself, I'll have to tell Dad and have you fired. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with alarm. Sis, please give me another chance. I promise I won't make this kind of mistake again. Please don't fire me. I frowned at her. She bit her lower lip, as if steeling herself, then looked up and spoke to me. Sis, my mom's back. I already knew that, so I stayed quiet and just watched her. The moment she got back, she started pressuring me for money, but I don't have any to give. She won't stop harassing me unless I pay up. It's driving me crazy. Sis, can you help me out? I shook my head. This is between you two. I can't get involved. If it's really bothering you, you could always call the police. She gave a bitter smile. You're right, sis. Could you lend me some money then? Just 100,000 yuan, enough to keep her at bay for a while. I didn't refuse this time. After all, we grew up together like family. I quickly transferred 100,000 yuan to Soo Shirue through my phone. I advised her, you need to think this through yourself. If it comes to it, use legal means to protect your rights, but going forward, be more careful at work. This affects the whole team. If the complaints keep coming, it puts me in a difficult position. She lowered her head and murmured, I understand. I then told her to go back to work. As I watched her walk out of the office, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still hiding something. If it were just about her mom, why would it affect her dating life? Logically, she should be even more eager to find someone to escape this situation, but since she didn't want to talk about it, I didn't press further and put it out of my mind. Focusing on my work instead, before the end of the workday, I already received a message from Soo-young. I'm downstairs at your office. I replied, you're here so early, it's sweltering down there, why not come up for a bit? I just have a few more documents to finish up. He shot back quickly, nah, if I come up I'll just end up distracting you, and then you'll scold me again. I'd rather sweat it out down here. That way my wife will feel a little more sorry for me. I couldn't help but laugh and replied, "Oh, you and your smooth talk." A colleague nearby let out a surprised, "Huh, oh, you seem to be in great spirits lately, something good must be coming your way." I laughed and pretended to swat her with a folder, with eyes that sharp, "You should be doing embroidery instead, what a waste of talent being a bid manager." She dodged nimbly and said earnestly, "Seriously, you were in such a bad state before. I actually thought about suggesting you break up with him several times, but I was afraid you'd think I was meddling. You're so much better now. I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels right." A wave of warmth washed over me. It turns out so many people around me had been quietly caring for me all along, and I never even noticed. "Thank you, Shally." Shally rubbed her arms, looking a bit embarrassed. "No need for thanks. Just make sure to give me and my team a raise and some time off after this bidding is over." Feeling pretty confident, "Are we?" Shally waved the USB drive in her hand. "Absolutely, my team poured 6 months of effort into this proposal. It's a guaranteed win." I smiled at her confident expression and agreed, "Deal. If we win the bid, I'll personally fund a 7-day Maldives trip for you and your entire team." Shally's eyes lit up. "Then I'd better notify everyone to get their passports ready immediately." She turned and opened the office door, nearly colliding with Sushirue, who was standing right outside. Shally's face darkened. "What are you doing standing here, eavesdropping on us?" Sushirue frantically waved her hands in denial. "No, I just wanted to ask my sister a few questions." She was indeed holding a folder in her hands. "Then why didn't you knock, sneaking around like that?" Shally shot her a few disgusted glances before turning and walking away. "Shally and I have always been close since we worked our way up together. When Sushirue first joined the company, she went around spreading exaggerated rumors about me and Lu Heji." Shally, a fiery-tempered northeasterner, happened to overhear and immediately tore into her at the top of her lungs. I let Sushirue in, only for her to ask trivial questions so basic you could figure them out with a moment's thought. I swallowed the curse words that nearly slipped out and patiently explained it to her one more time. This continued until she finally walked out the door. I quickly grabbed the remaining documents on my desk to review them. By the time I finished, it was already half an hour past my scheduled quitting time. I quickly grabbed my phone and sent Suyang a message. "I'm done, coming down now." With a message notification sound, the frosted glass door was pushed open. Suyang leaned against the doorframe, waving his phone at me. "No rush, I'll wait for you." A few colleagues were still working overtime in the office. I walked over and greeted each of them. Shally nudged me with her elbow. "No wonder you've been grinning from ear to ear lately. This guy's a catch, totally your type." The rest of the team joined in teasing us, blushing. I playfully raised my hand as if to hit Shally. Suyang chuckled from behind. "Thanks for your hard work on the overtime, everyone. I've ordered dinner and bubble tea for the team." The group erupted in cheerful banter. "Thank you, boss's husband." "The boss's husband is so generous, wishing the boss and the boss's husband 2 little ones in 3 years. Alright, enough with the jokes. You've worked hard with the overtime. Finish up and head home early to rest." I quickly nudged Shally back to her seat before these folks could spout any more nonsense. "Shally, remember to send a copy of the bid document to my email." Shally gave a thumbs up in response. After wrapping things up, I grabbed Su Yang's arm and hurried out of the office. While waiting for the elevator, I asked him curiously, "Weren't you supposed to wait for me downstairs? What made you come up?" "I was going to wait for you downstairs, but I just saw someone who looked like Lu Heji from behind getting on the elevator. It made me uneasy, so I rushed up to find you, but I didn't see him up here." "Maybe I was mistaken." I looked at him, amused. "Just a glimpse of someone's back spooked you that much? And even if it was Lu Heji, with so many people around in the office, do you really think I'd let myself get taken advantage of? Better safe than sorry. If he really meant you harm, you can't stay on guard all the time. From now on, I'll try to pick you up after work every day. At least that'll give me some peace of mind." Seeing the worry on his face, my heart felt wrapped in soft cotton, and I gently replied, "Okay." I had arranged with my parents to bring Suyang home for dinner today. Before the car even came to a complete stop, they were already waiting by the door. The moment we stepped inside, Suyang was immediately urged to wash his hands and eat, watching my parents fuss over him with warmth and concern. I couldn't help but feel my status at home was seriously threatened. Right in the middle of the meal, Suyang's phone kept ringing with incoming calls. He picked up his phone and stepped aside to take the call, his expression turning serious as he called out to me in a low voice, "Gigi, come here for a moment." I put down my chopsticks and walked over. asking, "What's wrong?" Soo-young opened an email on his phone, which turned out to be a bid proposal. "Is this your company's bid proposal?" I quickly took a look and realized the bid document on his phone was identical to the one Shelly had just sent me. "This is ours. Our bid manager just sent it to me. How did it end up with you?" A sinking feeling began to grow in my chest. "It seems there's a mole in your company. The bid documents have been leaked." My breath caught. This was a major incident that could seriously impact the company. I didn't even stop to eat. Just quickly told my parents I had an urgent work matter to handle and had to head back to the office. I hurriedly grabbed Soo-young and headed out the door. When I got back to the office, the bidding department was still working. Shelly saw me return and teased, "Weren't you out on a date? What brings you back so soon?" With a serious expression, I told her to come to my office immediately, sensing something was wrong. She wiped the smile off her face and hurried over. After closing the office door, I opened the email on Soo-young's phone. "Shelly, the bid proposal has been leaked. You need to tell me exactly what happened last night. Who had access to your computer?" Shelly was horrified, but she quickly forced herself to calm down and began recalling the events of the evening. After we left that evening, Shelly and her team stayed in the office to discuss the details for the next day's bid. Someone knocked on the office door and said that the dinner and milk tea ordered by Soo-young had arrived. Shelly decided there was no rush, so she let the team members go to the break area for dinner first. She stayed in the office, intending to email me the bid documents first. Just as she was sending it, the office door opened, and Soo Shirue walked in with a dinner box and milk tea, wearing an ingratiating expression. "Sis Shelly, have your dinner first. It won't be good for your stomach if it gets cold." Shelly never bothered to hide her dislike for Soo Shirue, who wisely kept her distance and rarely appeared in front of her. Though annoyed, Shelly coldly muttered, "Just leave it there," not wanting to make a scene with someone putting on a friendly face. As Soo Shirue set the food and milk tea on the table, the drink tipped over, spilling all over Shelly. Furious, Shelly jumped up and yelled, "Did you do that on purpose, Soo Shirue? I bet you meant to dump that on me. I can't stand two-faced snakes like you. Stay the hell away from me." Soo Shirue burst into tears at once, sobbing as she reached for a tissue to wipe her face. In a fit of anger, Shelly shoved her away and headed to the restroom to clean her clothes. When she returned, she found the mess of spilled milk tea on the table and floor had been cleaned up. Shelly looked furious. I came back and saw she'd cleaned up the spilled milk tea, and I actually felt guilty for yelling at her. I was about to apologize, but when I went to her desk, she'd already left for the day. If I'd known what she was really up to, I would have slapped her right then and there. She was filled with regret and self-blame afterward. "This is all my fault. I forgot to shut down my computer before leaving. The company suffered such a huge loss because of me. Don't blame yourself. No one could have guessed there was a mole in the company. Plus, she's technically my father's adopted daughter. So it's only natural you let your guard down." Soo-young chimed in, "Figuring out who's to blame isn't the priority now. Since Gigi trusts you, I'll trust you too. Based on what you've said, Soo Shirue is most likely the mole, but we don't have proof. The most urgent thing is to find evidence, force her to reveal the buyer's identity, and then call the police to minimize the damage." I quickly shared the solution that came to mind and discussed it with them. I sent a message to everyone working overtime at the company tonight. A major company secret has been leaked. All staff working overtime tonight must return to the office immediately. Before long, everyone had arrived. I gave a brief rundown of the situation, and everyone looked grim. I pointed at Shelly. "Shelly, only you and I have handled the bid documents. I would never leak confidential information to harm my own company, so you need to explain this." Shelly's face was flushed with anger. "Suji, we've worked together for 2 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? How could I possibly betray the company?" She shot a venomous glare at Soo Shirue. "Tonight, she was the only one who had access to my computer. She deliberately spilled milk tea all over me, and while I was in the restroom cleaning up, she copied the bid documents and leaked them to someone else." Soo Shirue's face was a mask of shock and hurt. "Shelly, how could you say that about me? I meant well. I was worried you'd get sick eating cold food. I admit I spilled the milk tea by accident, but I cleaned it up right away. I'm just an intern who's never even seen what a bid proposal looks like. How could I possibly steal it for someone else? Besides, we're family. Why would I ever sabotage our own company?" Trembling with rage, Shelly pointed at Soo Shirue and shrieked, "You scheming witch, I know it was you. Keep denying it and I'll scratch that lying face right off your skull." Then we'll see if you still refuse to admit it, I snapped coldly. Enough, Shally, Shirue is right. She's been adopted by my family since childhood, and my parents treat her as their own daughter. I can't imagine what good it would do her if the company collapsed. Shally, after thinking it over, it could only be you. If you tell us who the buyer is now, out of respect for our past relationship, I won't press charges. But if you refuse to talk, I'll have no choice but to let the police take you in for questioning. Shally still insisted she had done nothing wrong. I couldn't be bothered to argue any longer, so I immediately called the police. They arrived quickly, handcuffed Shally after assessing the situation, and escorted her out. All the bidding team members gathered around to plead for Shally. I snapped, the company is about to collapse. If she doesn't confess, you're all fired. Exhausted, I waved my hand and told everyone to go home. Most people left first, but the bidding team's supervisor approached me and handed over a USB drive. Boss, this is the backup proposal I prepared earlier for this bid. I think it could be useful for the company. I excitedly took the USB drive and looked at him gratefully. Perfect, the company is saved now. Shaoshan, if we win the bid tomorrow, the company's value will double, and I'll promote you to manager. I hurried back to the office with the USB drive, opened the bid document, and started reviewing it. Su Shirue knocked and entered the room. I looked up, surprised to see it was her, and asked, "Why haven't you gone back yet?" Her eyes were slightly reddened as she said, "I never thought you'd trust me so much, sister. I was sure you disliked me." I replied coldly, "I'm only doing this for our parents' sake. Besides, this matter concerns the company's survival. I won't let personal grudges cloud my judgment." Moved by my words, she sat down beside me and said, "Sis, this company is Uncle's life's work. I'd like to stay and see how I can help." I replied flatly, "You can't even read a tender document. There's nothing you can do here. You should just go home." Seeing her stubbornly refusing to leave, I didn't press the matter further. After printing out the tender documents and sealing them in an envelope, I realized the security strips were in the bidding department. I stood up holding the envelope, but immediately slumped back into the chair, curling up in pain as I clutched my stomach. I had mild gastritis from overworking, which Su Shirue was well aware of. She hurriedly poured a glass of warm water and brought it to me. Sweating from the pain, I handed her the envelope I was clutching. "Please take this to Shaoshan first and have him seal it. It'll be ready for use tomorrow." She quickly took the envelope and headed toward the bidding department. Halfway there, she glanced back and saw me still curled up in my seat. She let out a soft sigh and gave a cold laugh. Su Shirue walked briskly down the hallway, slipping into the water station just before reaching the bidding department. She opened the envelope, placed the bid documents on a stool, and took photos of them one by one to send out. I stood at the doorway, letting out a cold laugh. "Su Shirue, what are you doing?" Su Shirue shuddered in fright, her phone clattering to the floor. She turned around and found a crowd had gathered at the entrance, including Shally, who had just been taken away by the police. I rushed forward, snatched Su Shirue's phone from the floor, and froze when I took a closer look. The recipient was none other than Liu Heji. I never imagined the leaked bid documents were connected to Liu Heji, let alone that she was still in contact with him. I shot Su Shirue a probing look and said with a cold laugh, "Care to explain, dear sister?" Su Shirue glared at me fiercely. "Was this all your scheme? You never trusted me." I truly admire her ability to turn the tables. Shally couldn't help but curse. "You're really shameless, Su Shirue. Stop talking nonsense. Spit it out. Who's your buyer?" I went through their chat history, and there's nothing about any buyer between her and Liu Heji. Liu Heji is just a basketball player. Even if he wanted to harm me, he'd never think of using a bid proposal. Someone must have approached him with a tempting offer, which is why Su Shirue took the risk to steal it. Su Shirue tried to resist, saying, "What are you talking about? I don't know anything about a buyer." Seeing Shally so furious she was about to lunge and tear into her, I quickly grabbed hold of her. If we hit her now, with the police right there, we'd definitely be charged with disorderly conduct. As much as I wanted to tear her apart more than anyone, the thought of how my parents had always treated her like their own daughter weighed on my chest like a ton, making it hard to breathe. A pair of hands steadied my shoulders from behind as Su Yang came to my side. His eyes filled with concern as he looked at my bruised arm. I pinched myself just now to fake a stomachache. I shook my head at him to show it didn't hurt. Su Yang walked up to Su Shirue. "Su Shirue, do you think the company is doomed if you stay silent, or did your buyer promise to protect you no matter what?" Su Yang shook his head mockingly. It's almost enviable how someone your age can still be so naive. Soo Shirowe's face was pale, yet she stubbornly refused to speak. Soo-young opened his phone to reveal a newly published announcement. Kering Group and Anji Co., Ltd. Sign long-term strategic cooperation agreement. With me here, Anji will never go under. But you, leaking company secrets, that's a crime punishable by 3 to 5 years in prison. If you were the buyer, would you go through all the trouble to save a traitor, or would you just pretend not to know them? Tears welled up in Soo Shirowe's eyes, rolling down her cheeks one after another. Her mind finally caught up, and she realized with a jolt of fear that Soo-young was absolutely right. Sigh, a long, heavy sigh. I turned around in a hurry, only to find my father standing behind me out of nowhere. Dad, what brings you here? My father shot me a reproachful look. You shouldn't have carried this company crisis all by yourself without telling me. Your old man still got it. I was just afraid you'd worry, I murmured in defense, my eyes growing misty. Dad patted my back, then walked over to Soo Shirowe, who was sobbing uncontrollably. Shirowe, when your father passed away, you were just a little girl. I've always felt I treated you fairly, yet I never imagined you held such deep resentment toward our family, even to the point of trying to destroy the company. Today, for the last time out of respect for your father, if you reveal who's behind this, the company will not hold you accountable, but from now on, you must leave the company and our home. Soo Shirowe knelt on the ground for a long moment before finally whispering, I'll talk. There was a player on Liu Heji's former basketball team whose cousin happened to be a manager at a rival company. When he occasionally came to play basketball with Liu Heji and the others, he learned that Soo Shirowe worked at the company and started scheming to get his hands on the bid documents. He promised Liu Heji 500,000 in cash upon success, plus a job offer at his company with double the current salary. Soo Shirowe and Liu Heji are both foolish and malicious. They were easily swayed and jumped at the opportunity without understanding the consequences. I suspect there's another reason she didn't mention. This incident could also destroy the company and deal me a heavy blow, something they'd be all too happy to see. I reported it directly to the police, who, based on Soo Shirowe's statement, brought the competing company's manager in for questioning and punishment overnight. Soo Shirowe packed her bags overnight and got the hell out of my house. I finally got rid of that jinx and almost set off firecrackers to celebrate. After going through a crisis, the company expected a prolonged slump, but thanks to Kering Group's announcement, its stock price skyrocketed instead. Soo-young and I introduced our parents to each other, and after the usual pleasantries and mutual flattery, our wedding date was finally set. I thought life was just quietly heading towards happiness. Then one day, I brought Soo-young home and found a middle-aged woman sitting on my sofa. As soon as I opened the door, a face somewhat resembling Soo Shirowe's was smiling at us obsequiously. I frowned, wondering why Soo Shirowe's biological mother was in my house. I walked into the kitchen and asked Mom what was going on. She sighed and told me, your aunt had a hard time back then. She only ran away because she was terrified of the beatings. Now she's all alone with no one to care for her. Even Shirowe ignores her. Your father feels guilty, thinking she never had a single good day after marrying your uncle. As the eldest brother, he wants to make it up to her, since we have a spare room anyway, and you won't be able to come home every day after marrying Xiaoyang. It would be nice to have her stay and keep me company. Dad is a sentimental man. Back when he refused to help uncle pay off his debts, he thought it would teach him a lesson and stop him from gambling. Little did he expect that uncle would be forced by creditors to jump from a high building, something that has weighed on Dad's conscience ever since. That's also the reason why he adopted Soo Shirowe in the first place. In the end, Soo Shirowe showed no gratitude and even held deep resentment toward our family. Out of disappointment, my father had no choice but to ask her to leave, but I know my parents still care about her deeply. After all, they raised her for over a decade. And bonds like that don't just disappear. Now that aunt has come to us in desperation, my father's nature won't allow him to turn a blind eye. I can't bring myself to refuse, but I still feel uneasy about the whole situation. After raising Soo Shirowe for over a decade, she still bites the hand that feeds her. Do you really think second aunt would be content living a life depending on others? After dinner, I discussed with Soo-young that I would come back to stay for a while to observe the situation. Although reluctant, Soo-young expressed his respect for my decision. He originally wanted to move in with me, but considering his workplace is too far from my place, he'd have to wake up 2 hours earlier every morning. My heart ached, but I still managed to coax him into going back to his own place. After a long, mushy phone call, I went downstairs to get some water. I spotted my aunt standing in the kitchen and called out to her. "Auntie," she was startled by me and turned around. "Oh, it's Xiaoji." Still awake, I noticed she was holding a cup too, probably also getting water. I gave a faint and casually brought up Su Shirue. "Has Auntie Air been in touch with Shirue lately?" Fury flashed in Auntie Air's eyes. That ungrateful girl. I tried to talk some sense into her about breaking up with that Lu fellow, and she had the nerve to yell at me and tell me to mind my own business. If I weren't her mother, why would I even care what happens to her? That Lu guy is jobless and broke. Lazing around at home all day living off Shirue's hard work. He's got a terrible temper too. He beats her black and blue at the slightest provocation. I don't know what she sees in him besides his pretty face. That foolish girl is completely under his spell. When she saw I wasn't responding, she gave an awkward smile and spoke up. "Xiaoji, I've heard about the foolish things Shirue has done. Please don't blame me for her actions. I never taught her to do such heartless things." I finished the water in my glass with a light chuckle. "Auntie, let's not bring up those matters again. Since my father has decided not to pursue it further, I won't either. Please make yourself at home and consider it as keeping my mother company. I should be thanking you." Auntie chimed in cheerfully. "Oh, I always said Xiaoji is such a sensible child, 100 times better than that wretched Shirue." I made an excuse about being tired and headed upstairs, but my mind was in turmoil, unable to calm down. To my surprise, Su Shirue is still with Lu Heji. From what Auntie said, it sounds like Lu Heji often hits her. Su Shirue is such a money grubber. Even after Lu Heji had nothing left to offer, she still supported him without breaking up. I recall in our previous life, right before Lu Heji eloped, Su Shirue even urged him to mortgage the house. The house was fully paid for by my family. To put Lu Heji at ease, I added his name to the deed. In the end, Lu Heji secretly mortgaged the house, tricked me into signing the papers, and all the money ended up in Su Shirue's bank account. Would someone as calculating as Su Shirue really make a deal that's bound to lose money? While I'm all for them being stuck together and making each other miserable, something feels off about this whole situation. I just can't shake this nagging sense of unease. Lately, I've been so focused on family matters that I rush home right after work, which means I've been neglecting Su Young for quite some time. He showed up at my office looking all pitiful, insisting that I treat him to dinner. I felt both amused and guilty. I had been neglecting him for days because of my aunt's situation, so it took quite a while to coax him out of his sulky mood and get him to smile. Su Young and I decided to revisit our high school memories and drove to the area near our old school. Just as we parked the car, we heard faint rustling and murmuring coming from the vehicle next to us. "Someone, not here, scared already, weren't you laughing all cozy with that fat pig, acting like a total slut? Are you insane? He's just a customer from the shop, what's wrong with you?" Su Young and I exchanged a glance, then simultaneously lowered our heads and quickened our pace to leave. After the sharp crack of a slap echoed through the air, a man strode out and came face to face with us. It was Lu Heji. Upon seeing us, he froze for an instant before narrowing his eyes to scrutinize me. Su Young shifted position to block Lu Heji's line of sight, then took my hand and led me toward the night market street. I glanced behind the car and saw Su Shirue frantically straightening her clothes, her face marked by a swollen red slap. The night market street was as bustling as ever. There was every kind of snack and quick bite you could imagine. Su Young and I strolled around while snacking, eventually stopping by an old wonton cart with Unspoken. We ordered 2 bowls of wontons and found a table to sit at. Back in my senior year of high school, I used to come here for a bowl after every evening study session. As he spoke, Su Young fondly ran his hand over the table. It was worn with age but wiped clean, free of any greasy residue. I said in surprise, "Me too. And I always sit in this exact spot every time I come." Su Young propped his chin on his hand and chuckled. "Seems like we've sat in this same seat at different times, eating the same wontons. That's kind of romantic, isn't it?" An ill-timed voice cut in. "If you knew she always eats with me, would you still find it romantic?" The moment I heard that, all the sweetness in my heart vanished, leaving nothing but disgust. Seeing me roll my eyes in exasperation, Su Young chuckled and reached out to hold my hand, intertwining our fingers. I thought to myself that I shouldn't let some idiot ruin my good mood, but the jerk didn't leave. Instead, he sat down right across from us. I feel even more disgusted. Lu Heji plopped down unceremoniously and continued to disgust me. "Su Ji, you didn't come all this way just to reminisce about the days we shared a bowl of wontons. did you? Su-young waved our interlocked fingers right in front of his eyes. Lu Hezi. Gigi and I are getting married soon. Cut the vulgar, tasteless crap you use to amuse yourself at others' expense. If I hear another word of this nonsense, I won't hesitate to rearrange your face again. Su-young spoke with a chilling threat lurking beneath his cheerful smile. Lu Hezi's face darkened. Perhaps recalling their last physical altercation, he shouted toward the roadside, "What's taking you so long? Why are you dragging your feet?" Under the gaze of passers-by, Su Shirue reluctantly walked over and took a seat. "Why do we have to sit here? There are so many other spots." Lu Hezi pulled her close with an arm around her shoulder. "What's the matter? Don't want to catch up with your sister and brother-in-law?" Su Shirue glanced at me but remained silent. Lu Hezi continued, "Darling, your sister's getting married soon. How about we tie the knot on the same day?" Su Shirue turned pale, her body trembling slightly. I noticed her arms, hidden beneath her sleeves, were covered in bruises. And there were clear strangulation marks on her neck. It seems second aunt was right. Su Shirue really isn't doing well. The wontons were served, and the broth, sprinkled with seaweed and dried shrimp, smelled just as fragrant as it did years ago. I kept my head down, eating, just wanting to finish quickly and get as far away from these two as possible. Su Shirue suddenly called out to me, "Sis, when's the wedding? I'd love to come and give my blessings." "August 15th, what a perfect date," she murmured. "I'll definitely get you a proper wedding gift." She seems a bit off, but I'd rather not get involved. She made her choices step by step, so she should face the consequences. I have no interest in playing the saint and bearing others' burdens, especially for someone so ungrateful. After eating, I took a stroll with Su-young before heading back to where we parked. Someone had keyed a deep scratch into the car's body. Since someone's handing me money on a silver platter, I'd be a fool to refuse. I immediately called the police. With footage from street cameras and my dashcam, Lu Hezi was apprehended at the night market and taken to the station. After 10 days in detention, I slapped the repainting invoice in front of him, fuming but under the cop's watchful eyes. He had no choice but to transfer the compensation, just as Su-young and I had finally vented our frustration and were feeling relieved. My mom called, her voice trembling with panic. "Gigi, come to the hospital quickly, your dad has passed out." Su-young and I rushed to the hospital as fast as we could. Dad is still in critical care, while Mom sits pale-faced in a chair, her eyes fixed intently on the emergency room door. My legs gave way beneath me, but Su-young caught and steadied me, guiding me over to where Mom was sitting. "Mom, what happened? How could Dad collapse out of nowhere?" I don't know either. After lunch, he said he felt dizzy and wanted to lie down. So I helped him to bed, but by the afternoon, he still hadn't gotten up. I tried to wake him to have some fruit, but he was completely unresponsive. I knew something was wrong right away and called 120 immediately. Mom tried to keep her voice steady and speak clearly, seeing how pale I was. She smiled and comforted me. "It's nothing serious. Your father has high blood pressure. It's an old issue. Don't be scared." But her tightly clenched, trembling hands gave her away. I held Mom in my arms and gently patted her back, just as she used to comfort me when I had nightmares. "It's going to be okay, Mom. Dad will be fine." Mom finally broke down, sobbing quietly in my arms. My heart ached terribly. With Dad collapsing, Mom had only me to rely on. Yet I was so panicked that she ended up comforting me instead. The emergency room lights finally went off, and as the door opened, Su-young rushed forward. "Doctor, how is the situation?" The doctor removed his mask with a serious expression. "The patient has severe hypertension and must be careful with their diet. No cutting corners." Fortunately, they were brought in just in time, and the surgery went relatively smoothly. "Please go ahead and complete the admission procedures." My anxiety finally eased, and Su-young followed the doctor to handle the hospitalization. I had intended to take my mom home first, but she insisted on going to the hospital room, so I helped her there. I had her lie down on the waiting room chair for a while and told her I was going home to pack some of Dad's clothes. Su-young drove me back. I was so weak and shaky that I couldn't have driven myself. Su-young comforted me while driving, and I gradually calmed down. Suddenly, a person came to mind. Why didn't Auntie come to the hospital with Mom when something this serious happened? I brought up my doubts to Su-young, and he furrowed his brow too. "Let's go back and check first before deciding anything." When I got home, I noticed signs of the place being ransacked. With Dad in trouble, Mom didn't even change her shoes. She had no time to search for anything. Su-young and I went up to the second floor and heard noises coming from my room. Peeking through the door crack, I saw my aunt squatting with her heavy frame, rummaging through the lower drawer of my desk for jewelry. A suspicion began to dawn on me. Soo-young and I exchanged a glance. He'd figured it out too. A surge of anger welled up inside me, and I shut the door open violently. "What are you doing, Panfeng?" Panfeng was startled by me, turning around with an awkward smile. "Gigi, you're back so early, don't get the wrong idea. I just wanted to help you wash these things." I rushed over, grabbed the handbag beside her, and dumped its contents out. A pile of jewelry, watches, luxury items, and several stacks of cash spilled out. "Auntie, what are you afraid I'll misunderstand? You certainly have an eye for quality, picking only the expensive things to wash." Panfeng looked embarrassed, stammering and at a loss for words. I shouted angrily, "Speak, what exactly are you trying to do?" Seeing that explanations wouldn't work, Panfeng resorted to acting shamelessly. "I just wanted to take some things to sell for money. I've been at your place for so long, and you never give me any spending money. I had to find a way myself." I gritted my teeth. "Stop pretending, Panfeng, my father's in the hospital. Don't you dare say you didn't know." Panfeng broke out in a cold sweat. What does that have to do with me? I'm not a doctor." I glared at her coldly, wishing I could tear her apart. "Panfeng, you had nowhere to go. My parents took you in, fed you, clothed you. What did you lack? Why would you poison my father?" Panfeng's eyes widened as she stammered, Don't you dare make baseless accusations. I never drugged anyone." Just then, Soo-young rushed to the doorway, his face pale with panic, and shouted, "Gigi, it's terrible. The hospital said Dad didn't make it. They've declared him dead." Hearing this, Panfeng's legs gave way and she collapsed to the floor, muttering in disbelief. "That can't be," she said. "It would be fine. It was just ordinary vitamins." I lunged forward, grabbing her by the collar, my eyes blazing with fury. "It's you. You killed my father, you murderer. Soo-young, call the police. I want her to pay with her life." Panfeng turned deathly pale and screamed in terror. I didn't know. Shirue told me they were just vitamin pills, said we should swap out Uncle's blood pressure medication to teach him a lesson. It wasn't supposed to kill anyone. I never meant to kill him." "Xiaoji, you have to believe me. Please don't call the police on me." I slowly released my grip on her collar, stood up, and looked down at Panfeng's crumpled form as I spoke coldly. "Explain yourself clearly." Panfeng realized I had tricked her, but Soo-young had already recorded what she just said. "If she doesn't come clean, I'll take the recording to the police, and she'll still end up in jail." Panfeng had no choice but to confess everything truthfully. "It was Shirue who came to me first. She said that my uncle was responsible for my father's death, and now he's cutting ties with her over money. She also claimed your family kept me here just to humiliate me by treating me like a servant." I didn't actually think that way at first, but she kept saying it over and over until I started feeling resentful. Later she approached me and said my uncle has high blood pressure and takes medication daily. She told me to swap his blood pressure pills with regular vitamins to teach him a lesson. She said nothing bad would happen, just that he'd feel dizzy and uncomfortable for a while. When I saw the ambulance take my uncle away at noon, I panicked. The longer I stayed, the more terrified I felt, so I thought about grabbing my things and running. I swear I never meant to actually harm your father." Shirue again. I gritted her name in my mind, wishing I could tear her apart limb from limb. I said coldly to Panfeng, "Where are the drugs?" I followed Panfeng downstairs, took out a few pills, and put them in a small bag. Then I stared coldly at Panfeng. "You've been used by Shirue. She's trying to get you to kill my family." Panfeng's face turned deathly pale. "How could this be? I'm her biological mother. Did you ever treat her like a daughter? Do you really think she sees you as her real mother, Panfeng? It's a fact that you drugged my father. I have recordings and evidence, and I can call the police to have you arrested and jailed for years at any moment. If you don't want to go to prison, cooperate with me. Of course, if you think I'm bluffing, you can call Shirue and test what I'm saying." Panfeng's hands trembled as she called Shirue. The moment the call connected, she let out a wailing cry. "My daughter, you said it was just ordinary vitamins, that it wouldn't kill anyone. Your uncle, he was rushed to the hospital at noon, and I just heard from Suji that he didn't make it. He's dead. Suji says he's going to call the police now. What should we do?" A light laugh came from the other end of the line. "Dead. Good. You're the one who administered the drug. If the police come, they'll arrest you." "What's that got to do with me?" Panfeng shouted in stunned anger. "You wretched girl, you set me up. I'm your mother." Su Shirue said coldly. Stop shouting. If you don't want to go to jail, do exactly as I say. Go cook a pot of porridge now. Mix in the medicine I'll give you later, then take it to the hospital and convince Su Ji and her mother to eat it. Don't worry, this drug is odorless and tasteless. The police won't detect it. Once they're both dead, I'll be the legal heir to their family estate. Then I can give you as much money as you want. Pan Feng stared blankly at the hung-up phone. I've already recorded that conversation. Do you believe me now? Pan Feng nodded mechanically. Give me the medicine she gave you earlier. Pan Feng returned to the room and handed me a small paper packet containing a white powder. I packed everything into a small bag and handed it to Su Yang's assistant to take to the hospital for testing. After finishing everything, I stared coldly at Pan Feng. Mark my words, if you actually do everything she says, you'll be her last target. All she has to do is point the finger at you as the culprit to the police. The drugs went through your people, you won't have a leg to stand on. Pan Feng was both shocked and terrified. It didn't take long for her to connect the dots, and she offered to cooperate with me. I asked her to cook a pot of congee, then sent a message to Su Shirue. I've already taken it to the hospital and watched Auntie eat the congee, but Su Ji said she needed to come home to get something. She ended up eating the congee at home. Su Shirue replied as expected, I'm on my way. I deliberately had Pan Feng say that I ate the congee at home, knowing Su Shirue's impatient nature. She couldn't wait to come and see the results of her scheme. Given how much she despises me, she won't be able to resist flaunting her masterpiece in front of me. In that case, I'll set the stage for another act and wait for her to walk right into the trap. When Su Shirue rang the doorbell, Pan Feng looked flustered and hurried to open the door for her. The moment she stepped inside, she couldn't conceal the delight on her face. Where is Shuji? Pan Feng pointed toward the dining room, and Su Shirue immediately hurried over. She saw me lying under the table, groaning in pain with my hands clutching my stomach. A bowl of spilled congee on the table. Su Shirue cast aside all her doubts and walked triumphantly up to me. Suji, how does it feel to finally get what you deserve? Weren't you always so full of yourself? I glared at her in agony. So you're the one behind all of this? She burst into a terrifying, sinister laugh. That's right, I've wanted to kill you all along. How dare you live so comfortably while I suffer under that beast Lu Heji's torment? My voice was faint. You're the one who chose to get involved with Lu Heji. Yet you blame me for it. She glared at me with vicious eyes. Do you think I don't want to leave? That monster Lu Heji filmed videos of me. He threatened me, said he'd post them online and send them to my workplace and home if I dared to break up with him, for everyone to see. How could I possibly escape? You saw the bruises on me that day, yet you turned a blind eye. You're an accomplice too. If you had helped me, none of this would have happened. Suji, this is your karma. Your family's lives are my wedding gift to you. Do you like it, sister? As if struck by a thought, she burst into loud laughter. Oh, and I've already sent your beloved Lu Heji ahead to keep you company. Don't thank me, Suji. I chopped him into pieces, fed some to the dogs, tossed the rest into the river. He'll never lay a hand on me again. No one ever will. Her expression was deranged, as if possessed by madness. Suji, I'll take good care of everything you left behind, your home, your company. It's all mine now. Ha ha ha. If you're feeling too lonely over there, I'll find a way to send your precious Su Yang to join you. I could barely keep up the act, fury blazing in my eyes. Pan Feng rushed in with a panicked look. Trouble. There are cops everywhere outside. What's there to fear? They're all here for you. Pan Feng stared at her in shock. What did you just say? Su Shirue's expression was icy cold. Mom, don't be a stumbling block for me. Just die quietly. The police burst into the room. Su Shirue instantly switched to a fragile, terrified expression, pointing at Pan Feng and screaming. It was her. She's the one who poisoned my uncle's entire family. The police swarmed in and pinned Su Shirue to the ground. In disbelief, Su Shirue struggled and screamed. You've got the wrong person. I'm not the killer. She is. She. Her cries cut off abruptly as she watched Su Yang walk over to help me up. And I dusted myself off, trembling. She couldn't utter another word. I said to her with a laugh, Dear sister, I just tricked you not long ago. How come you haven't learned your lesson? Her eyes red and swollen, she glared at Pan Feng, struggling desperately to lunge at her. You lied to me, Mom. How could you team up with her to deceive me? Pan Feng spat in her direction. Ha, just moments ago you were wishing me dead, and now you're calling me Mom, if I don't team up with her. Should I just wait around for you to finish me off? I crouched down in front of her. staring coldly. "This time, no one's going to plead for you, Su Shirue. Someone like you deserves to rot in prison. You'll never get another chance to harm anyone again." Later, the police fished Lu Heji's mangled remains from the river. Some parts had already been devoured by wild dogs. The hospital also confirmed that she had swapped my father's medication with diet pills, which can cause elevated blood pressure and nervous excitement, a deadly combination for hypertension patients. That bag of white powder was highly toxic potassium cyanide, combined with Panfeng's testimony and the phone recordings. Su Shirue was found guilty of premeditated murder. With multiple charges consolidated, she was sentenced to life imprisonment. I watched her become hysterical in the courtroom before being dragged away, seething with resentment. When I told my parents at the hospital everything that had happened, they were both deeply moved and horrified, realizing that their strong sense of loyalty had nearly put our entire family in danger. Panfeng was too ashamed to stay with us any longer, so I gave her some money to return to her hometown and open a small shop for her retirement. After everything was settled, the day finally arrived on the 15th of August, and I married Su Yang amidst a chorus of blessings. Story 2. The scion of a wealthy family was reborn. After regaining consciousness, he immediately ordered the hospital to transfuse all the rare panda blood to his beloved, who was injured in a car accident, neglecting me, who was also hit. In his previous life, he felt so guilty for hitting me that he devoted all his resources to me. As a result, his beloved died from loss of blood. He resented me. "If it weren't for you, Xian would have been able to give birth to our baby soon." This time, seeing him divert all the blood supplies, I couldn't help but laugh. After all, he didn't know that the child his beloved was carrying wasn't his. I had been married to Shenwan for 6 years, pulling his teetering family empire back to its peak. I devoted everything, whether it was resources from my family or my own, selflessly. This was because when Shenwan and I were both in a car accident, he directed all the medical resources to me. That day, I was waiting by the roadside for him when his car suddenly lost control and headed straight towards me. I was scraped by the car, hitting the back of my head on the ground, while the car went on to crash into the guardrails. Shenwan saved me first. This incident made my previously indifferent parents agree to our marriage. "Before I got married," they said, "we don't ask for you to be extremely wealthy in this life, but the fact that Shenwan chose you between 2 women proves his love." So, we got married. But on the day we registered our marriage, Shenwan's beloved passed away. I remember when he received the news, he stood there, stunned. It was then I learned that when I was rushed to the hospital, Shenwan had forced the hospital to use the last 2 bags of panda blood on me. However, he quickly regained his composure, chose to proceed with our marriage registration, and even spent a long time chatting and laughing with my father at our home. From then on, everyone said that Shenwan must have truly loved me, yet, I felt somewhat guilty and resolved to support him and help him. But after enjoying the resources from my family and seeing the Shin family slowly regain their strength, they changed. They began to psychologically manipulate me, making things extremely difficult. Even my parents gradually lost the respect of the Shin family. By the time I realized what was happening, our family had been slowly drained. Later, I was diagnosed with severe depression. On the day I attempted to jump off the building, Shenwan sat on the couch, watching me with a smirk. He said, "Lin Yen, in this life, you've wronged me and Zhou Xian. Even in death, you should go and beg Zhou Xian for forgiveness. Your life was stolen from Zhou Xian. If it weren't for you, Xian would have been able to give birth to our baby soon." Baby. So, he had already been unfaithful. All those talks about meeting for business were lies. Provoked by his words, I jumped. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day of the car accident. I still stood by the roadside, and by the time I realized what was happening, Shenwan's car was already speeding towards me. I couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the car, which fiercely crashed into the guardrails. But this time, Shenwan, dragging his injured legs, pulled Zhou Xian from the passenger seat. He hailed a car from the roadside and rushed to the hospital. He never once looked back at me. It wasn't just me who was reborn, Shenwan was too. Clearly, in this life, he decided to follow his heart and save his true love, and me. Wouldn't Yen have to live with guilt for the rest of her life? I love Yen, which is why I don't want her to bear the burden of a life lost. How absurd. The accident happened in Zhou Xian's car. Why should I be the one to bear the burden? Yet, what's even more ridiculous is that in my past life, I was actually fooled by his words. How can the living argue against the dead? Even though Zhou Xian was at a place she shouldn't have been, her death settled all disputes. Every time I brought up this matter, Shenwan would look at me coldly. Lin Yan, since Zhou Xian died because of you, must you really quibble with the dead? In my past life, such words suffocated me. Even outsiders would say, hey, if it wasn't for your distrust of their innocence, Shenwan wouldn't have driven so fast to find you. Your jealousy killed someone. Remembering these comments, I couldn't help but leave the bedroom. Standing at the top of the stairs on the second floor, I looked down on Shenwan and sneered. I'm sorry, Mr. Shen, but I think our engagement needs to be called off. Shenwan, ignoring my parents' attempts to stop him, ran up to the second floor. He gripped my arm tightly, unconcerned about the injuries on my body. Why, Yen? I know you're upset about this, but I did it all for you. If she had died, everyone would point fingers at you. I looked at him as if he was a fool. Shenwan, if anyone should be pointed at, it should be you. We're engaged, and you bring your first love to race to me. Even if she hadn't died from it, wouldn't it still be because you were driving too fast? What does that have to do with me? After saying that, I turned and went back to the bedroom. The dowry will be returned to your family's account. Don't come here again. Even looking at him made me feel sick. This kind of man, who lacks responsibility, always finds a way to pass the blame on to others. After driving Shenwan away, I contacted someone. Although the Shen family has fallen, they are still wealthy. His car wasn't insured after the accident, which gave me the opportunity to have a friend take his dash cam. My friend retrieved the surveillance footage from the day of the accident and sent it to me. The video showed Zhou Xian and Shenwan getting into the car together at 11 a.m., and the scene in front of the car was a 5-star hotel. Seeing this, I laughed. I laughed at Shenwan's lies in my past life, and how foolish I was to be deceived all my life. While I was angry, the video captured their conversation. Wan, will you come back to the hotel with me tonight? Shenwan clicked his tongue. And Zhou Xian giggled and said, stop it, I'd like to, but Lin Yan wants me to have dinner with her. So annoying. If it wasn't for her family's resources, I wouldn't give her a second glance. As they talked, the car's speed noticeably increased. They kept chatting in the car, mostly belittling me. Xian, only you understand the thrill of racing like this. If it were Lin Yan, she'd definitely tell me to slow down, saying it's dangerous. So annoying. Zhou Xian laughed, and after a moment, in a sugary voice, she asked, is that all? How about other aspects? Who's better? Right after she spoke, Shenwan's car crossed the yellow line in the middle of the road. A truck on the opposite side honked, followed by a sharp turn. Damn it, I was seething with anger, hating this deceitful pair to my core. What nerve, already engaged to me and yet cheating. And not just cheating, but flirting while driving. If they hadn't been distracted by their flirting, the accident might never have happened. Zhou Xian's death in her past life was half due to Shenwan and half due to herself. Poor me, an unrelated victim caught in their mess. I was completely manipulated to my breaking point. I clenched my phone tightly, vowing to see that despicable couple get their comeuppance in this lifetime. After recovering somewhat, I went for a follow-up at the hospital. To avoid running into that detestable pair, I deliberately chose a different hospital, yet, unexpectedly, I still ran into Shenwan. The moment we met at the clinic's entrance, I couldn't help but roll my eyes at him. I intended to ignore him, but Shenwan called out to me with what he believed was a charming voice. Why are you at this hospital? Somewhat speechless, I politely responded, the other hospital feels unlucky. I didn't want to go there. I thought that would anger Shenwan. However, far from being angry, he laughed and, without further ado, grabbed my hand and started walking. Shenwan, I protested as he held on tight, not letting go until we were behind the hospital building, where I finally managed to pull my hand free. Shenwan, are you out of your mind? I told you I want to call off our engagement, and the dowry has been returned. Can't you understand? Leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets, Shenwan looked at me. An inexplicable fondness in his eyes that made my skin crawl. Yen, I know you're jealous. If saying this makes you feel better, then go ahead, but you must reply when I message you. No more antics. Jealous, I laughed in disbelief. After spending 6 years together in a previous life, I never realized just how narcissistic Shenwan could be. Or did he truly believe that in his past life I was hopelessly in love with him? Fine, then explain this. Why was Zhou Xian in your car that day? It was on the way, and I didn't expect anything to happen. On the way, From where? A hotel, I asked mockingly. Hit by the accuracy of my guess, Shenwan's face gradually darkened. He looked at me coldly and said, Lin Yin, I'm giving you a way out. If you don't take it now, you won't have another chance. I looked him over from head to toe. Who needs your way out? You'll regret this. Unbelievable. Running into this jerk even here. Who's to say who will regret it in the end? According to a friend, Shenwan has been staying at the hospital with Zhou Xian. Shen's grandfather has been furious about it several times, but Shenwan doesn't seem to care. After my recovery, I started working as an assistant for my father. Dad, the Shen family is still using our name to deceive people. I think we should announce the cancellation of our engagement. My father was all for cutting ties with the Shen family. That very day, I posted on social media, declaring the cancellation of our marriage alliance. That afternoon, both my father's and my phones were ringing off the hook. Lin Yin, what's happening? Are you really not getting married? My friends deserved the truth. After hearing the full story, tisk tisk sounds came through the phone. That's disgusting. I'm going to have my dad stop all collaborations with them. Hearing the last comment, I smirked with satisfaction. I quickly counted. In just one afternoon, the Shen family must have received over a dozen cancellation orders. This was exactly what I wanted to see. After work, my dad and I headed home together. Seeing Shenwan at our doorstep, my dad snorted, Daughter, shall we move? Having that filth at our doorstep every day, even the god of wealth wouldn't want to visit. Amused by my dad's serious tone, I ignored Shenwan and headed inside. But as I entered, the proud Shenwan still came over. Shenwan often spent several nights away from home. Left with no other choice, I could only visit him at his office. However, I still remember the disdainful look he gave me when he saw me downstairs at his office building. He walked straight past me without stopping. Shenwan. I tried to follow him but his assistant stopped me. Sorry, it's working hours now. If you want to see President Shen, please make an appointment by phone. How ridiculous. I need an appointment to see my own man. Now isn't it just karma coming back around? Shenwan tugged at the corner of my dress, looking more pitiful than in his previous life. Is there something wrong? Shenwan forced a smile and stiffly nodded. I let my dad go in first while I stayed back to see what trick Shenwan was going to play next. He took a large bunch of roses out of the trunk. Yen Yen, I really know I was wrong. Can we make up? Can you give me another chance? I smiled as I sized him up, finding Shenwan quite amusing for the first time, a grown man. Clearly in love yet too scared to fight for it. All grown up, can he do nothing but mooch off others? I tilted my head. What about your Xian? I really have nothing improper with her. I swear, I can swear on the Shen family. He dares to swear. I dare to ensure the Shen family goes bankrupt. Just as Shenwan was about to swear, my mom opened the door calling me to eat. Sorry, I'm off to eat. Shenwan took a step forward. What about us? I waved my hand with a smile before closing the door. It depends on my mood. Our family of 3 leisurely enjoyed hot pot around the stove. After eating, my dad secretly gestured to me from the window side. He hasn't left yet. Lin Yin, you can't go soft on him. How could I? I snorted lightly. Probably his family is pressuring him. Has the Shen family contacted you? Contact, my dad proudly said. I blocked them the day the incident happened. An hour later, I opened the front door. Shenwan, shivering from the cold at the doorstep, lit up when he saw me. Yen Yen, you finally forgave. I feigned surprise. Why are you still here? Then I grabbed a trash bag from behind the door. Sorry, I'm just taking out the trash, pretending all night. Shenwan couldn't hold back any longer. His frozen smile slowly disappeared, and his gaze darkened. Right, this is just like the Shenwan from my past life. Lin Yen, are you playing me? After throwing away the trash, I clapped my hands. Yes, what about it? Compared to Shenwan's past actions, this was nothing. Shenwan stared at me for a moment, then spoke deliberately. Lin Yen, you'll regret this. After that, he got into his car. The blinding headlights shone on me as Shenwan stared intensely from inside the car. I didn't flinch as I met his gaze. If he dared to drive over me, then he'd show some real guts, but he didn't dare. Just like how he had someone he loved but still sought an arranged marriage with me against his conscience, Shenwan was destined to achieve nothing. Shenwan was probably stimulated by my actions. According to my dad, the Shen family has been very active in their circles lately, perhaps planning a big move. What can he possibly come up with? My dad laughed heartily, looking at me with a hint of pride. Yen Yen, why do I feel like you've become a different person after the incident? I was silent for a moment, then played a part of the dash cam recording for my dad. just the nicest parts one had picked, and it nearly made my dad flip the table. That freeloader, as long as I'm here, the Shin family won't be able to turn things around. My dad and the Shin family were now completely at odds. The Shin family was in a state of collapse. And everyone kicked them while they were down. All the hard work Shinwon put in over 3 days, my dad could easily destroy with just one phone call. With my dad handling the business, I had some free time to focus on Zhou Xian. I still remember her making inappropriate jokes about me in the car. Zhou Xian has always been the apple of Shinwon's eye, but I wonder if she feels the same about him. I had someone dig into Zhou Xian's past. When I got the information, I was stunned for a moment. So much, it was about a centimeter thick. My friend looked a bit helpless and said, "Sister, you really know how to pick them. This person is notoriously problematic in our circle. You could talk about her for days on end without covering everything." Problematic. I remember what Shinwon said about the child before I jumped off the building in my previous life. My eyelid twitched, sensing an ominous feeling. After reviewing the information, it took me a while to digest it before I spoke up. So, Zhou Xian was already pregnant before she met Shinwon, right? My friend nodded across the table, a trace of sympathy appearing on their face, but remembering what I went through in my past life, I didn't know whether to feel sympathy for him or for myself. For a betrayal, Shinwon tormented me for 6 years. My temples throbbed with anger, and I felt a surge of frustration with nowhere to vent. In this life, I will have my revenge. I found Zhou Xian's last benefactor. I later found out that due to Zhou Xian's interference, this benefactor had been stripped of most of his wealth by his official wife. He was practically left with nothing. Sitting across from him, I silently marveled at Zhou Xian's audacity. Balding, with an oil life, he was practically left with nothing. Sitting across from him, I silently marveled at Zhou Xian's audacity. Balding, with an oily face and a big belly, he was revolting to look at. "What can I do for you, miss?" he asked, his sleazy gaze making me uncomfortable. "You know Zhou Xian, right?" I cut him off, slapping a prepared pregnancy test report on the table. "Let me tell you the truth, she's carrying your child but doesn't want to trouble you. She's planning to have the baby on her own. If you care at all, you should go find her, and remember, don't tell her I told you this." Zhou Xian wanted it kept secret. After that, I got up and left. The old man called after me several times, but I didn't dare stop. Too sleazy. But as far as I knew, his wife had taken their only daughter with her when they divorced. He currently had no children. And now knowing about this child, I believed he wouldn't ignore it. After leaving the restaurant, I hid in my car and secretly watched him. He scratched his head holding the pregnancy report, calculated the dates, and then chuckled slyly. Watching him repeatedly make phone calls, I knew my plan had worked. I couldn't help but laugh. I was already eager to see Shinwon's face when he learned the truth. Shinwon and our family were at odds. My dad said that recently he had been looking everywhere for partnerships but faced rejection at every turn. I bit my lip in thought, then whispered a suggestion to my dad. "Dad, will this work? It won't end up benefiting the Shin family, will it?" My dad laughed heartily and looked at my mom. "Wife, we have a worthy successor in our family. Our daughter is much tougher than me, absolutely ruthless towards our rivals." I grinned. Seeing that my parents were truly happy, my parents were loving, and I was their only child. Many people gossiped behind my dad's back. "What are you striving for? In the end, it will all go to someone else's family." Even my own grandmother often said we would end up being devoured by others. It seems my dad is now reassured about handing over the company to me. Under my guidance, Shinwon's business gradually began to improve. I made it a point to let everyone know I was going to an art exhibit over the weekend, and it didn't disappoint when I arrived. Zhou Xian was there too. Seeing me, she smirked with satisfaction. "Ah, Miss Lin is also here to see the exhibit. What a coincidence," I snorted dismissively. "Not a coincidence at all. It's more like enemies on a narrow road." Zhou Xian probably didn't expect me to be so blunt, and she paused momentarily at my words, but clearly, she wasn't ready to let it go and deliberately glanced behind me. "Though, you came alone. Miss Lin, did you know, Alwan is planning to marry me soon? You better hurry up. I hear you're 25 already. If you don't get married soon, no one will want you." "Right, right, as if I could compare to you, someone who's wanted." Just then, her sugar daddy was eagerly watching Zhou Xian from behind. I smiled and nodded towards him. "It seems like that gentleman over there is looking for you." Shinwon instinctively followed my gaze, and his smile instantly stiffened. I tactfully walked away and found a good spot to watch the drama unfold. As soon as the older man approached, Zhou Xian lowered her head and walked away. The two of them moved to a less crowded area, where the man puckered up for a kiss, but Zhou Xian pushed him away sharply. Xin, what's wrong? Don't you miss me after all this time? It was obvious from her face that Zhou Xian was genuinely disgusted. Understandable. No matter how trashy Shenwan was, he at least had a decent appearance. This old man, though, what are you doing, Mr. Zhang? We broke up 3 months ago. Please respect yourself. Zhou Xian frowned in his direction, her eyes darting around, afraid of being seen, but it was too late. I had recorded everything. Baby Xian, stop pretending. I know you're pregnant. Zhou Xian's eyes widened as if to say, how did you know? I've already divorced that old lady at home. Come with me, have a baby with me later. Whether it's a boy or a girl, I'll transfer all my properties to our child. How about that? Zhou Xian blinked in surprise. Really? The old man pressed on while the iron was hot. I know you're with Shenwan now, but you don't know the real situation of the Shen family, do you? They're barely holding on. You're so beautiful. Why suffer with him? If you don't believe me, I can write a guarantee and get it notarized. Once the baby is born, everything will belong to him. Zhou Xian didn't respond, clearly tempted. She knew about Shenwan's situation, but she knew nothing about this old man's real circumstances. His ex-wife had caught him cheating and took half of his company during the divorce. Now, all he had left was just a shell. The old man smiled and pulled out a rune card from his pocket, sliding it into the cleavage of Zhou Xian's dress. Think it over, I'll wait for you tonight. This time, Zhou Xian didn't refuse. I watched as she tucked the rune card into her purse. That evening, I had my dad set up a meeting. Shenwan had always wanted to collaborate with my dad's old friend but had been repeatedly refused. I wanted to see if Zhou Xian would really meet that old man tonight. This was the perfect opportunity to find out. When Shenwan saw my dad and me, he was momentarily stunned, but considering my dad's friend was hard to meet. He gritted his teeth and went forward to shake hands. Mr. Chen, hello. It's common for men to discuss business over drinks. Uncle Chen was famously known for his love of drinking. My dad accompanied him at a leisurely pace. I had a soft drink in my glass, while Shenwan grimaced and chugged down one drink after another. Watching him drink until his face turned red, I was reminded of our past lives. Back when the Shen family was still prosperous, Shenwan was known as Young Master Shen. And he was treated with great respect wherever he went. Drinking for him meant forcing others to drink. Even after his family's decline, he managed to cling to mine. With my father's support, he could secure contracts just by exchanging pleasantries. But drinking like this was a first. I watched indifferently, feeling nothing. If he hadn't tried to scheme against me, and had instead progressed step by step, the Shen family might have returned to its peak, but now, there was no hope left. The meal ended without a signed contract, and Shenwan had thrown up 3 times, reeking of alcohol. After everyone left, my dad and Uncle Chen spoke privately. I went to the restroom, and upon returning, I bumped into a drunken Shenwan at the door. I tried to walk around him, but he blocked me. Lin Yan, his speech was slurred, and he swayed as he stood. Am I impressive? To tell you the truth, the Shen family is on the rise again. I'm giving you a chance now. Apologize to me. Make it up to me, and I'll forgive you. I could still marry you. I laughed. Ha, you're laughing. Happy now. Lin Yan, I'll marry you. He staggered, lost his balance, and fell towards me. I dodged in shock, grateful for my quick reaction. In this lifetime, I want nothing to do with Shenwan. Having no support, he stumbled and crashed into a wall. I dusted off the spot where he had almost touched me. Shenwan, what makes you think I would marry you? You don't really think I like you, do you? When Shenwan turned around, his eyes were reddened. You like me. I know you do. Lin Yan, you like me. Have you forgotten? His voice trembled as he spoke. I looked at him with a cold smirk. I might have liked you once, but now, I wish you were dead. As I turned to leave, Shenwan grabbed my clothes. He stood there, a tall figure with teary eyes, looking rather like a puppy that had been abandoned. Where's Zhou Xian? Call her to pick you up. I tried calling Zhou Xian using Shenwan's phone but got no answer. I was relieved. She must be having a secret rendezvous with that older man. I tossed the phone back to him and walked away without hesitation. Now, he truly had no one. The next day, I unexpectedly received a thank you red envelope from the older man. Thank you, beautiful lady. I've regained what I lost. Come to our wedding when it happens. The red envelope contained 10,000 yuan. those two really ended up together. But Zhou Xian really had her work cut out for her, managing her time like a pro. I inquired about Shenwan's business, which, although not as good as before, had improved considerably. At least, Shenwan had begun to regain his arrogance. Figuring it was about time, I registered a new account and added the older man's ex-wife. I exaggerated the details, mentioning other properties under the old man's name, supposedly all destined for his mistress's child. I just lightly stirred things up. The fire across instantly erupted into flames. That afternoon, I went to Zhou Xian's place to stake out. About an hour later, the old man's ex-wife showed up with a crew in tow. The door was answered by Shenwan, carrying himself with the air of a domineering CEO. He scowled and asked, "Who are you looking for?" The ex-wife, clearly not someone to be trifled with, didn't waste a word and had her people push past Shenwan to burst inside. Minutes later, Zhou Xian was dragged out, screaming at the top of her lungs, "What kind of people are you, breaking into homes in broad daylight? I'm calling the police, you're breaking the law." As soon as she mentioned the law, the ex-wife slapped her across the face, left and right. "Breaking the law? I'm breaking the law by hitting you, but you being a homewrecker and destroying families isn't illegal." The accusation of being a mistress also confused Shenwan. Still, he didn't hesitate to shield Zhou Xian behind him. "Ma'am, you must have mistaken her for someone else. This is my girlfriend, and we're about to get married. She's not the mistress you're talking about, so leave now." Zhou Xian, upon seeing this woman, seemed as frightened as a mouse seeing a cat. Apparently, she had been frightened by a previous encounter. Now, she clung to Shenwan like he was her last lifeline. "Wan, hurry up and call the police." The woman blinked and then suddenly smiled. "Wan, you wouldn't happen to be from the Shen family, would you?" Shenwan straightened his back a bit, thinking the Shen family name still carried some weight. However, he didn't expect the woman to dismissively wave her hand in command. Beat him to a pulp. Shenwan, outmatched and outnumbered, couldn't fight them off, but he kept Zhou Xian close, taking most of the blows himself. The commotion was too loud, and the police arrived within 10 minutes. I don't know exactly what happened at the police station, but the old man's ex-wife kept referring to Zhou Xian as the mistress. "Officer, I know it's wrong to hit someone, but did you know she's destroying my family? She's pregnant now, and she wants the father of my child to give all his wealth to her illegitimate child. How can I not be angry?" Zhou Xian, clearly in the wrong, could only cry. Meanwhile, Shenwan, still grim-faced, was on the phone with a lawyer and told the woman to watch her language, but the woman scoffed. "I see you've been fooled by this vixen too, still getting married, marrying someone like her. Aren't you afraid it'll dirty you?" Shenwan's face was so dark it looked like it could drip ink. I sat in the car eating popcorn, thoroughly enjoying the drama. The only regret was that I didn't witness the scene at the police station. I only know that half an hour later, the old man rushed over in a frenzy. Soon after, the police escorted a few people to the hospital. I silently followed behind, keen on keeping up with the drama. I guess it was a case of each party sticking to their story, and the police, out of options, had them go for a paternity test. But during the paternity test, Zhou Xian was very uncooperative, hiding behind Shenwan. She pleaded, "Wan, don't you trust me? I don't want to do this. I don't even know them. This is all a misunderstanding. Let's just go home." "Okay, my head is so dizzy." Unseen by Shenwan, Zhou Xian kept making desperate eye signals to the old man, but the old man didn't catch on and became even more agitated. "Zhou Xian, what are you trying to do? You need to let my son acknowledge his ancestors." At this, Shenwan clenched his fists. "Brother, don't blame me for being unkind, but the child in her womb is mine, and I can't just hand over my child to you, can I? Besides, Zhou Xian, you and I were at a hotel just the other days, both of us unmarried. What are you afraid to admit now? Seeing you like this, who knew we had to do a paternity test to find out who the child really belonged to?" After a few words, Shenwan's chest heaved violently. He gritted his teeth and looked at Zhou Xian. Is what he said true or false? Zhou Xian's body trembled slightly. "Awan, I get a paternity test done for me," Shenwan roared. The commotion was huge, and the onlookers crowded around, making it impossible for the police to disperse the crowd. In the end, the paternity test was conducted, with the police present. The results came out quickly. When the nurse called Zhou Xian's name, her body stiffened. Shenwan and the older man exchanged glances and walked over together. I craned my neck to join the spectators, eager to know who the father of the child was. The smile on the old man's face gradually froze. Was it really Shenwan's child? But Shenwan's expression seemed off too. After exchanging looks, Shenwan turned and strode rapidly towards Zhou Xian. Under everyone's gaze, Shenwan actually grabbed Zhou Xian by the neck. Zhou Xian, what else are you hiding from me? Who is the child's father really? The police quickly rescued Zhou Xian from Shenwan's grasp. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. Could it be that the child's father was someone else entirely? This incident somehow got uploaded online by a concerned citizen. Suddenly, everyone was aware of the hospital's mix-up. Netizens made light of the situation. Seriously, is it such a big deal? Exactly, neither of you are the child's biological father. Why the rush when even the real father isn't panicking? Ha 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 ha. It's like watching a comedy show during the Chinese New Year. Shenwan, can't you just focus on being a boss? Must you complicate love? I laughed out loud. I heard that Zhou Xian was thrown out of the house by Shenwan that very night. Shenwan was dejected for a long time. It was only half a month later that he reappeared at the company. It seemed like he was struck by love and decided to dedicate himself fully to his career. Due to the hospital incident, everyone felt that Shenwan was truly unfortunate. Despite everything, he managed to gain a bit of a positive reputation online. Perhaps now he wanted to seize the opportunity to excel in his career, but had he forgotten, fortune does not double, and trouble does not come singly. That day, I released the conversation recorded by my dashcam online. This conversation stirred another uproar on the internet. Shenwan, I take back my sympathy, you truly deserve it. To ditch a genuine rich beauty for a mistress, you've got some nerve. What goes around comes around, isn't this just poetic justice? Following this, internal turmoil arose within the Shin Corporation. Companies that had been instructed by my father to collaborate with Shin Corporation began demanding to terminate their partnerships, and since Shin Corporation was the first to falter, they were required to pay 3 times the penalty according to the contract. Shenwan thought he had seized an opportunity, but now he was facing bankruptcy due to the penalties. From behind my phone, I orchestrated everything, feeling immensely satisfied. Shenwan, everything you did to me in our past life, I've returned it all. Shin Corporation really went bankrupt. My father considered acquiring it, but I really despised the bad luck. Shenwan was burdened with huge debts and was reportedly hiding from creditors everywhere. As for Zhou Xian, due to her role as the other woman, she was ostracized by society. She was no longer welcome in high society circles. Anyone who went online knew of her glorious deeds. And she couldn't even get a job as a sanitation worker. When I saw Shenwan again, it was during a night out at a bar with my best friend. He had become a male model. When I saw him at the next table, I was utterly shocked. As we made eye contact, several older wealthy women were pouring red wine on his muscles. It was too bizarre. I couldn't stand it and decided to switch bars. As I was leaving, Shenwan followed me out. Lin Yan, can we talk? I'm sorry for what happened before. Which incident are you referring to? I looked at him. He had wronged me in too many ways, but I didn't need his apology. After all, I had already avenged all the wrongs by myself. About the car accident, I should have saved you first. I waved my hands as if facing a great disaster. No, please don't. As long as you're saved, my life is worse than death. Before leaving, I asked him, Shenwan, do you believe in reincarnation? Shenwan understood, his face turning deathly pale. Lin Yan. You too. I ignored him and just walked away. Let him figure out the rest on his own. After all, he shouldn't expect to live well in this life.